I'm Brother Kedar and Tarik L. Welcome to the House of Ram. None of y'all really knew and stuff like that, but if you need anything, we have some food on the way and stuff like that, you know, just so we can get some good eating in while we're studying. And I'll just pass around a few different things. I don't have copies of the stuff I'm passing out, but I can provide copies. If you give me your email address, or if you're local to the area, I'll make sure that you do get copies. What I have here, for those family members that are interested in discharging your mortgages, I have some initiatives.
Some of these you already have, but I know some.
Yes. At this point in time and everything, you know, as Moors, it's such a blessing.
Some back anyway.
It's such a blessing and stuff like that, you know, to be equipped with the power of your nationality. Your nationality empowers us so much and everything like that. That is like every day, it's like a new discovery into the fullness of myself through the power of my nationality. Empress Roswell, baby.
It's not right.
It's not. It's not. I can be just getting younger and younger.
Oh, really?
Always got to see. So I'm gonna pass this around, right? This is the Mahoney Credit River decision. This is the landmark case that ruled that mortgages were not only unlawful and illegal, but it was unconstitutional. And it spells out all the reasons why. So whenever you're attempting or in the process of doing a mortgage reconveyance to set off the debt, you use this as an attachment to the document and to your exhibits. Wow. Okay.
They said bring the dictionary, right?
Yes. You want that dictionary bigger than you, man. You got on time. Wait for what you paid at. You see it? You see it? They filling in?
Yeah.
Is there enough people for you now? You did your duty though. You brought your guests with you. You know what I mean? If you coming out to these classes and you're not bringing guests, then you ain't doing something right. Because ain't nobody gonna get this type of information nowhere else. You need some help, Sister Ross? Islam, soldier. Islam. Hotel. Bad. Okay, so I'm gonna pass this around while we get prepared, just so y'all can become familiar with it. And if you want a copy of this,
Ross, take that. That's last. Yeah, take that.
Thank you.
Well, indeed. Peace and love.
peace, hotel family. So I'm gonna start passing this around in case anybody wants to familiarize themselves with it. Now that's the Mahoney Credit River decision. Now listen, that document there, that's a part of history. The judge that made the ruling that mortgages were illegal, he was assassinated 6 months later as a result of that. You know what I mean? He went down in history as one of the most honest judges that ever presided over a matter. Now, what's interesting about it? It's a lot of things that's overlooked about this case.
Now, what is it? I don't want to type that. I think I got that already.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you what distinguishes that document that I have from what you may see online. That's the actual court document. Okay? When you go
I'm not
online,
gonna see that online.
no, that's the Mahoney Credit River decision. Okay, Mahoney, it was a township called Mahoney Township or something like that. Yeah, state of Minnesota. This case was in the 60s. Okay, but this is what was interesting about this. The case was presided over in just like an abandoned dwelling, like a basement or an outdoor dwelling. Several people came together to have a court hearing. Okay, so I want y'all to really examine that case because it's going to tell you where the real power lies. They didn't go into some big courthouse and nothing like that. They got together their various principals and everything. They got a jury and all that, just like in the room that we're in right now. We have the power right now to come together in these settings and set a court precedent. Okay, we just never knew we had that type of power. But we are a government, like Brother Tarik Bey, we were just discussing this. We have to start exercising our right to adjudicate matters. Okay, we have our official seals. We have the power to produce our own documentation, and we have the power to have it recognized internationally as well. We have a flag that flies throughout the United Nations, and we're recognized in the United Nations and in The Hague. So we got to start coming together for these types of gatherings to adjudicate matters in our community, okay? When you adjudicate a matter in your community and then you notice the various outside entities or foreign entities and agencies, that carries the type of power that we need to start exercising more diligently. I'm not saying that, it's gonna be recognized overnight, but when we start operating in that capacity, then we give the international community something to look at or examine in terms of our behavior. But just having a reactionary, mentality towards dealing with our affairs, that's only gonna get us but so far. It's time for us to start adjudicating matters and settling matters in our own community. So, that means that we have to really revert back to our standards and our common customs. But this is the next level that we're gonna get to. So nothing else really drawn our attention. We should have really paid attention to that issue the other week and everything that dealing with this extension of the debt ceiling. Because when that dollar bill drops and everything, and we don't have nothing on the ball, they have an alternative situation where they want to allow Russian troops and Chinese troops in order to come in here and liquidate the assets of which they claim to be, in debt to. So a lot of people are under the impression that they have a claim here because we haven't asserted our claim. If we don't make a claim on something, then that's called abandonment. So we've abandoned our responsibility and our duty as Moors to take control over our estate. Then don't worry, there'll be other people that are dying to come in here and do that. So nobody wants to see that occur, but we have to start acting responsibly. So if you want a copy of that is very unique because it has the court seals on it. It has the signature of the judge, and I also have the actual affidavit of Walker Todd, who was a Bar Association member, whose affidavit dealing with the mortgage frauds carries a lot of weight. And when you enter this into evidence, when you're sending your information, when you're doing your mortgage reconveyances, these people, they won't even come to court. Because to come to court after you have that stuff on the record, they will leave themselves open to be indicted. So, in the event that you may be undergoing a foreclosure or mortgage issue, you bring that information and evidence. When you go to court, you bring a federal marshal with you. But they're not going to show up though. But you just, you put this on there because that helps you fight the battle. Okay, that's a precedent that shows why mortgages are illegal. Why, what constitutes, the illegal nature of a mortgage. The nature of it itself is illegal if you just look at the language. Mortgage, dead engagement, dead pledge. So, it's even in the etymology and stuff like that. But that judge was assassinated. You can pass it around. That judge was assassinated 6 months later after that ruling. He was found dead in a boating accident. When they exhumed his body several years later, they found that he had been filled with all this poison. So he went down in history as an honest judge, and they helped us out because by him dying under mysterious circumstances, they can't really go and undo that judgment. And this was a lower level court. We're talking JP court. We're not talking about, court of common pleas, superior court, supreme court. That was a court issue that was issued out from the lowest level of their tribunal systems. So that I found out to be very helpful, and it helps you understand better why mortgage is illegal. He dealt with everything, dealing with the money, the colorable money, the lack of consideration from the banks, the third party interloper, all that. He dealt with all that. So that's from another vantage point. And we just want to also add that for brothers and sisters to donate generously and everything, whatever you have to donate. Under normal circumstances, we ask for a $10 donation because we have guests such as Taj Tarik Bey, along with his traveling educators. We have Sister Roz Mariah Bey. And if you can't donate, at least support the vendors and everything. And like all these books here, you have to get them. You have to get them. you can't change the people's condition unless you change their literature, you know. So that's just the bottom line. You can talk to people, but when you show them in book form and everything, then that helps, you know, soothe them. Because a lot of times people are very apprehensive, you know, they have a lot of questions. Encourage them to get the books, and we should also be, you know, getting with sisters like Rosemary Bay, and we should be hosting functions so that she can come down here more often with the books. We should be getting with her for wholesaling of the books and everything. Like these books here should be set up in every section of town. Wilmington has 4 sections: East Side, West Side, North Side, you know, South Side, South Ridge. We should have stands like this providing this information to our people, because the more and more people get this information, the more commonplace this information becomes, the more empowered we're going to be, and then we're going to be able to just, you know, make initiatives and moves and everything like that without having to rebuild the wheel every time we have to come into a discussion. You know, where we're at right now, we're supposed to be light years ahead of us. You know, the internet was a blessing, it can help bridge that gap, but, you know, it's time for the practical application of the remedies. Your nationality, you know, is more than just your livelihood. It also provides you your remedy to navigate, you know, in this military situation that we're dealing with. So I just wanted to share that. So I'll be passing out a few other flyers. I think I passed out a flyer over there that talked about the 12 or 14 Caribbean countries that are taking the various European countries to court for reparations. And it has some very, very, very interesting commentary in there about how Obama, you know, was not in favor of the reparation issue, but you don't have to wait for Obama to favor nothing. There's a world court. So we gotta learn how to take our issues internationally, and it starts with simple things. Just sending your nationality papers and everything to The Hague. Let them know you're here. You know, certified mail go to The Hague. That's like $3 a change. Registered mail go to The Hague. Your information should be going to the United Nations, to The Hague, to the Secretary of State, you know, to your local officials. And, you know, it comes with a little price and everything. They have to send me stuff out certified mail, but you want to get that green card receipt back with a certified mail receipt number and a signature from the person. When you're sending out information, whether to a so-called government agency or government office or a corporation, always put a name. Always put a name. Because corporations and everything only exist on paper. And they play games with that just for the simple fact that you didn't put a name. So even if you don't have a name, if you're sending it to Ace Mortgage, put John Henry Doe or Jane Henry Doe, and then put the company underneath it. Always address it to some type of principle, okay? And that's how you bring them up and everything like that when you're holding them accountable, doing your administrative procedures, you know, when you're doing your lawsuits as well. So those are just little anomalies that you want to be on top of too. But yeah, so if you want copies of that, the article on the 14 nations, Caribbean nations, which are our brothers and sisters right in the Caribbeans, they're right here with us, except these are the adjoining islands. That's online. That's online there, you know. But and I want to also encourage all the brothers and sisters to tune in to High Frequency Radio. I'm gonna put the number on the board so that everybody could tune into that. That's from 11:30 to 2:30 p.m. every day, Monday through Fridays, hosted by Brother Yusuf Ali. And I mean, the stuff that you hear on there is just amazing. You can go back and listen to the archive because it's also online. And but tune into that because they deal with a lot of current events, and he has a lot of strong guests on this. I'm gonna put the number on the board as well. And also pass out something I got from Sister Roz. This is is entitled Vehicle Traffic. Okay, this is on rvbaypublications.com. And it will kind of deceive you because you just think, oh, this traffic. But but I want to read this and then ask you what you get out of it. It says, agency or party sitting for the agency, which would be the magistrate of a municipal court, has no authority to enforce as to any license unless he is acting for compensation. Okay? Such an act is highly penal in nature and should not be construed to include anything which is not embraced within its terms. Where there is no charge within a complaint that the accused was employed for compensation to do the act complained of, or that the act constituted part of a contract. Okay, but that's one case. This is the one I want you to listen to. When acting to enforce a statute and its subsequent amendments to the present date, the judge of the municipal court is acting as an administrative officer and not, I'm going to repeat that, and not in a judicial capacity. Courts in administrating or enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but ministerially. So I'm going to read that one more time. When acting to enforce, because they actors, when acting to enforce a statute and its subsequent amendments to the present date, the judge of the municipal court is acting as an administrative officer and not in a judicial capacity. Courts in administrating or enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially. So that's something for you to attack your Black Laws Dictionary with. What does the term ministerially mean? Okay? They're not acting judicially, so you gotta go and find out what does judicial mean. See, the issue that we're facing with as a people and as a collective is we were born into a military occupation, and we have been conditioned to view it as normal. So what we're calling a government is really like 80 different corporations and lead to, sabotage and usurp the land from the indigenous people. That's what we're calling a government. And by us being conditioned and raised in it and having this, this classical condition passed on from one generation to the next, we don't even see the greater issue. This whole thing is illegitimate. Okay, we've been spending war script since many of us were born. The gold standard, the silver standard, and all that was suspended back in 1933. So we don't know what it's like to exist in a de jure government. We don't know what it's like. And I'm gonna tell you, to be honest with you, I'm very pleased, and I had to humble myself and just recognize that if it wasn't for, some honest Albions pulling the rug from up underneath this colorful money system, we would still be just, existing back and forth, just worrying about how we're gonna pay our rent and our electric bills. We also had the power to pull the rug up underneath. When we started operating and defending our commerce rights and everything, that's what we're doing. What we see with that whole bankruptcy exposed that we just went through, don't think that wasn't a result of what active Moors and active conscious people are doing out here in discharging these colorable debts. Everything about the situation is colorable, okay? And so the more and more we start implementing the remedy that is there for us to implement, and it's our responsibility to implement, the more and more we can really work to start changing this, okay? So there's no debt because there's no money, okay? You don't owe a debt. You have exemptions. You have a nationality. You have to read House Joint Resolution 192 and the subsequent public laws and amendments. You have to read the United States Code that deal with the United States Code 31 that deals with the gold clause and the right to sue. Okay, and then that right there tells you that they can't demand any one form of payment since there's no gold or silver. So they can't refuse your offer to pay or your offer to exercise your remedies because all the wealth generates in this country through your bonds and through your signature. So, understanding those types of things will make life a lot easier. You keep them Federal Reserve notes in your pocket until we can have a more de jure or lawful way to exchange. But we're gonna have to grow off of that too, okay? Because the first thing came to my mind is that this thing shuts down today, can we survive? Okay? If those supermarkets shut down tomorrow as a result of the federal so-called government not being able to provide, the means of travel for the food, then what are we gonna do? We've allowed the Europeans to convince us that big houses with nice lawns was just there, to be manicured and mowed. We supposed to be building gardens and ecosystems right on our property. So if you have some land in the house, some territories, start a garden. You know, that's revolution. That's being proactive. You know, that's more science right there, getting into nature. And you know, and don't think that because we got a pass that it's gonna last forever. They only extended it to February. So we have until February to figure this thing out and become more self-sufficient and self-determinant. Or else we're gonna be subject with the same, you know, craziness that we saw the other week.
Can I add something before you?
Most definitely.
No, just in reference to that you put out there in
Yes,
the
ma'am.
first one you read. The reason this was done because, like, for instance, people will say that driving is commercial.
Yes.
So the license instrument is for those who do commerce. These are the I don't want to say escapes of that, but this, like the first one you read, it says unless they're doing, they're proving that they're, I don't have my glasses on. The first one you read, it said unless they're going for commerce, that they're doing commerce. So what that supports is the fact, that's the remedy to a degree, that unless you're doing commerce, even unto the administrative side, that is in line with the fact that you must be doing commerce. So some people can, you know, you skin the cat and you say, well, listen, I wasn't doing commerce. They have to prove you were when you weren't. And then the last one, I think is impacted, that one proves that there must be, even unto administrative law, an injured party if you do that one. You see? Like that. And another thing, when February the 7th comes, we don't care that the corporations have lost their jobs because they have nothing to do with, you know, they just didn't report to work for 3 days. They should all be fired.
Right. I say.
And prove that they're corporations. What happened just now is letting everybody know that those people are corporations. They are not the government. These people is the government.
That's right. That's right. And just to add on to what the Empress Rising Riot Bay stated, my sister Anita, she helped correct my concepts on government. She was like, you know, how do you distinguish a government from a corporation? You know what I mean? And I was like, well, I don't know. I thought it was like one and the same, basically, because this is what we grew up in, you know. But she said you distinguish a government from a corporation because a government doesn't demand any tributes from the people. You know, their services are fundamentally for the people, so they basically is free, okay? Or open to people, you know, that volunteer their charity or their support, whereas a corporation has always got their hand out saying, gimme, 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 we want money.
As soon as
So
you
you know
money, you understand that that's not legitimate government.
it's not a government, okay? I'm gonna read this next one too because it makes it real plain. Just 1 second, big brother Nas. It says that a judge ceases, the first case I read was Thompson versus Smith. I can get everybody copies of this. This is easy. But
It's on the site too, if you don't have it on.
yes, this is Assis versus U.S. It says a judge ceases to sit as a judicial officer because the governing principle of administrative law provides that courts are prohibited from substituting their evidence, testimony, record, arguments, and rationale for that of the agency. We're dealing with agencies. Agencies are just another code word for foreigner. That's what an agency means. When you go do all the etymology, look something like that, it's just going to say foreigner. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't a foreigner, it wouldn't have to be called an agency. Okay. Additionally, courts are prohibited from substituting their judgment for that of the agency. Courts and administrative issues are prohibited from even listening to or hearing arguments, presentations, or rationale. It says ministerial officers are incompetent to receive grants of judicial power from the legislature. Their acts in attempting to exercise such powers are necessarily nullities, meaning they're void judgments. We have to learn how to issue out our writs of void judgments, and then how to come with the international law. Because everything you send to these agencies, you should be sending a copy of that Roman Curia. That way they know that you know the cat is out the bag. But like Brother Taj said, for so long he has been really harping on the issue that they have no delegation of authority orders. So, you know, we devised one of the most magnificent delegation of authority order forms that you send any foreign agency demanding some type of authority or jurisdiction over you. Say, okay, cool, I will agree to that and everything if you would agree to satisfy this document here, which will allow me to know who and what it is I'm dealing with. These are strangers, okay? I was talking to some young brothers outside and everything, and we were just talking about what's the first thing you do when you encounter a stranger. You ask them for their legally authorized identification card. So when you see a policy enforcement officer, a code enforcer, whatever, that's, trying to exercise some type of commerce with you, trying to engage in a verbal contract, 'cause that's all it is. They're contracting with you to do commerce, to try to get some of your money. You ask them to see their legally authorized identification card, or i.e. their business card. Why is that important? Because you're going to find that on those legally authorized identification cards that all lawful police officers are supposed to carry with them, on the back of it is their bond number.
Yeah, their bond number and their EIN number.
Yes, and you're gonna find that on the state level, a lot of these city level police, they're not even bonded. So you're gonna get them up off you without getting into a high, octane conversation with them and everything. Just simply stick to that. And if they have a problem with that, then just ask to speak to their immediate supervisor.
Their superior,
Yeah, that's it. And you'll find that the devil will flee away from you and stuff like that. So without further delay, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the man of the hour.
Islam.
Greetings and Roswell, Big Bang Publications.
Yeah, good seeing y'all as well. Yeah, because I say, one thing about writing, right? It frees people you never meet from around the world. Just to remind you, Esther Sanford, the kind of lawyer in England.
Oh, okay.
All,
I think Sanford is something that's
it's Stanford, I think it is. Anyway, so all the people that's been on that suit with her for years,
yeah.
all declared their Moorish nationality. So,
Really?
yeah.
Well, speaking to the mic.
Mm-hmm.
He said speaking to the mic, didn't he?
Oh, yes. Esther Stanford, that's a big-time lawyer in England. I did a radio show with her some months ago, that was a few months back. And we talked, and she was going over, we was talking about her claim, because she's suing the Queen.
Right.
And we talked, but one of the things that came, positive things that came out of it, I presented the argument with her with stats, because there's still the issue of Dred Scott, that's all over the world. And as black, they cannot, receive any kind of reparation because no such people exist. And then as soon as they say slave, they're saying they're Slovakians, which is a misrepresentation, which makes their argument moot. So anyway, they all claim their Moorish nationality. That's cool. Now, if you all got pens and papers, write this down. I didn't get a chance to, because I was doing a couple of spell checks on this. Diva did this and there's more, but she's keeping this simple. And these are some USCs that can be used. So write them down. They can be used for, like, say, for instance, when you command a quo warranto and they fail to answer. All right. Now, I would go through all the titles, but I put the titles there so that you can make reference to them, because that'd be more than a class by itself. But if you all write down the references to the UCCs, to the USCs, you'll see them. As soon as you read this, we'll go down, we'll scroll it up. And these things are important to remember, but it is basically, she was using this in orientation class. So like when you have class, when you have orientation of Moors coming in, this is important. Some of you already know this, but this is for orientation. So these select United States codes of law are presented to all active Moorish Americans as an ancillary to their institutional curriculum and are presented for their approbation and application in their duteous civic activities when exercising and enjoying their divine inalienable rights, substantive rights, birthrights, and immunities. Now, so you must get familiar with all them, because you need to know you have them, to entertain them. Because any right that you do have that you don't entertain it's considered that you waived it or abandoned it. So you have to, now it's unethical and immoral, but you have to recognize this is how they're approaching you, because you must recognize absolutely that the United States corporation must be distinguished from the land, which was Morocco.
That's right.
Are we clear?
Exactly.
Your advantage of understanding that is this: if you don't make the claim, they consider you Christian property under the 14th Amendment. And then you're, at that point, you're real estate. You understand? And so this is what it is. Anybody who does not affirmatively, openly, and for the public record declare their nationality or have a nationality that is valid, that is already predisposed, that means it's already in place, that you cannot claim the tradition and customs principle of the common law to supersede the statutory codes that they've constructed for their property. Because the United States is a securities and holding corporation for European property, which includes chattels, which are referred to as human beings. Their major business is dealing with instruments that deal with stock, whether persons or persons. And so you got person corporate and person's corpse. And then the person's corpse would be persons who are held as civil little mortus. So anyone that has no nationality is considered civil little mortus, or dead in the view of the law.
Right.
And this was one of the motives as to why the Europeans put their family names on us, because when we transact business in their name in law, we're civil little mortus in relationship to any inheritances or any estates. Keep in mind that estate and status are equals in law, and citizenship and nationality are equals in law. Are we clear? So that's important for you to recognize that when you're looking at this document. I mean, this is not really a document, this is as a precursor, because this is an introduction for your approbation to look at some of these some of these United States codes for remedies in those areas when you command, say, their delegation of authority order, their quo warranto, etc., and their bonds, etc., the oath and stuff, and they keep on bouncing around. And I know that many people that have asked have run into difficulty, and so you'll be using these UCCs in those areas. I mean, these I keep thinking of UCCs. These United States codes in those areas. All right, and so you must also remember these facts, so that in your mind, particularly those who may not be grounded already in civics, etc., that this must be in your mind at all times, so that you're not fooled. And keep in mind, this is also important, that when your status changes, your language changes. Cultures in the language, and they will pay attention to how you say whatever you say, your choice of words. And if those things which are allodial in character does not find its way into your language, they will consider you under feudal law. Are we clear? It's not moral and it's not ethical. It is simply what they do. Are we clear?
Can you give an example?
Yeah. All right. Like, say, for instance, if you start arguing about rights and violations of rights, and you start referring to black and white human beings in the crayon venue, your argument's dead. You're not going to say it, but your argument's dead. If you start making claims, let's say, if you get in trouble economic and you start making UCC-1 claims on property to secure your property, and you're of Asiatic African descent, and you got on there Smith, Jones, or Johnson, or the like, and do not declare a nation state that has treaty with them. See, it must also have treaty with them. This is another reason why it's important for people to really understand nationality, because I think a lot of times when people are being taught these areas of knowledge, that the emphasis on nationality is not properly dispensed to them, because there's a concept that if they have the knowledge that they can get around to nationalizing or claim the right. Well, it doesn't work that way. Because in the law, you must honor your mothers and fathers in order for you to have claim to your mother's and father's estate, because there's no living beings here that is in the physical form that is a party to the constructs of the treaties and constitutions that set the law for the worlds. You understand? Therefore, if you're not a direct heir, you cannot claim to be a creditor to any of the estates upon which the bonds and liens are placed. Because the masses at large in these days do not and not allowed to handle money. Because the money is all in reserve. Do you understand? And instruments are placed into society representing or liens against the money. Now, what you have is the fact that that operation has been the way things have been operating in the financial arena. Criminals have constructed instruments to make taps against the estate, one, without informing the heirs of the estate, two, with deliberately miseducating the heirs of the estate, and three, in violation of their fiduciary duties on all levels, and they have misappropriated the estate, etc. And then created such frauds that they have gone bankrupt about 4 times, and then under false pretext trying to transfer the alleged debt against the heirs who don't even know they're heirs. Do you understand? And so what we have a problem, and this is back to where what you were saying earlier. Now, while we may be respectfully acknowledging Europeans who are exposing the system, remember, they're not exposing the system because they had any compassion for you or me. They're exposing the system because the middle class is being dissolved, and they're being dissolved with it. You know, and so their exposure of the system is not through some moral or ethical principle, is because their ox is being bored and he's laying in the gutter. And so they're trying to argue against their partner government, to which they've been beneficiaries under the Christian black codes and under what they refer to as the white supremacy doctrine and the discovery doctrine, the benefits of the Moorish estate, while the Moors have been branded by them and are, by virtue of that miseducation and branding, not descendable. You know, and so that must be in your consciousness when you're receiving this information, whether from me or anyone else, so that it can be properly dispensed or categorized. No matter what documents you get, no matter where you get it from, if you don't have a solid foundation in understanding the players in this political chess game, your concepts most likely will be flawed. If they find a flaw, you're done. No different than if they make a claim and you find an error. Their argument is dead, likewise with yours. Therefore, it is necessary, absolutely necessary, for our people to be properly re-educated. And it is absolutely proper and important for them to be educated by proper persons who have the knowledge in fact, so that it will be dispensed properly, so that they don't jump out there and then they don't know that they're violating the slave acts, and then they start doing things trying to entertain or exercise rights that they do not have in the Negro status. There's an assumption of right. Just like under a color of law, when they operate under a color of law, that's a violation of national or international law. However, when we operate as colored people, that's a violation of national and international law, and that must be understood. And it must be told to you so that you don't entertain those Negro, black, and colored brands claiming to be a person of color, because as soon as you say you're a person of color, you've just declared you're a corpse. And a corpse is from which they derive the word corporation, which is why corporation also has a designation as person. So you must know the natural person versus the corpse person. And these things, if not known to you, you will simply take up the connotative language, which is just generally in society, while making your arguments, and immediately your argument is dead, and they're going to put a barrister from England on you because you're trying to present yourself when you're unqualified, and they would immediately recognize you're in servitude by your language, because culture is in the language. Because once you understand nationality, you will consciously change your language. It is necessary It's not optional. It is necessary.
So what if they come in the guise of African Americans? You see that.
Same thing, it's a fraud. See, this is the deal. This is the deal. What is it that it is important for all of us to know? What's important for all of us to know is understanding that in order to claim a right or the capacity to invoke what is known as quote unquote the common law. First of all, everybody need to be aware of that. When you're talking Constitution and treaty, you're talking allodial law. Outside of that, it's automatically feudal. If you don't know that, you don't know to recognize when you're linguistically presenting a mixed argument, what's called mixed law, or conflicting position. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? In other words, you can't be the trustee and the beneficiary at the same time.
Right.
If you get the whole point. And you must know that. You don't have the option of not knowing that. And when you're calling another party to the law, these things must be in place. Whatever political party, persons representing the nation state in diversity, that's Article 3, Section 2, that is diversity of nationality, in order to have a claim that they have no jurisdiction, you have to be of another nation state. It must be known and you must be in treaty with them in order to call them to the law. Thus, the Constitution and treaty are looked at as one document, and you need to already know that. The other issue is that you need to already be familiar with them in order to invoke them, lest you make the mistake of assumption of having the power to call in the common law to trump the ens legis, or the legislation or the statutory codes that they have set up that are in fact just simply administrative but are not necessarily judicially valid. All right, and so the power to invoke the common law relates to one's provable by action or by written form, either one by the dispensation of your knowledge of your own culture, to demonstrate the traditions and the customs that go back to antiquity, that comprises the common law that the nations of the world recognize, and thus recognize you by the language. And by, say, you flying your colors, things like that. Those are indicators, often tested, and logically with the U.S. corporation, they're going to test you hard because they've been in violation. So don't think that you're failing sometimes when you're making arguments, but understand that they're resistant because this is over for them from a law perspective. You understand? And they've done so much dirt to so many people around the world that even European nations don't want them. Because when they had the power, they was like this, on everybody. You know what I mean? Not only abusing us, but also dissing even some of their own nation states, playing like their white supremacy game, of which they're not white people. And so now that the ball is kind of falling, the balloon is kind of busting, a lot of their allies is kind of sitting back grinning, waiting for this stuff to fall apart. This is why, although you don't see it in the news on a regular basis here, China, India, the different Eastern countries, etc., have already agreed not to do business anymore in the Federal Reserve news. And so what's happening, they're systematically dispensing all UST bonds without trying to cause too much alarm to the limit that they can control it. Meanwhile, in your other nation states that got UST bills, the citizenry are trying to get their fingers around the throats of all their leaders as quickly as possible they can. And so now the nation states have to war against their own people to protect their governments, because the people are going to choke them as soon as they can get them. So they can't even walk the streets. And it's getting worse and worse and worse, and it's only a matter of time before it gets here. So the real deal of it is, while the people here are getting filtered news around the world, the U.S. corporation being the war arm for the Federal Reserve, which belongs to the Jesuits, they all belong to the Jesuits, are trying to do everything they can to extract or to impose tariffs against the heirs because they're angry because you're waking up. They're trying to maintain the disassociation, the mental and political disassociation that our people demonstrate against their own land. Trying to maintain the connotative linguistics that continues to demonstrate that our people are incompetent and not descendable. However, with the civilized world does not acknowledge their default mandate anymore, so that's why they're getting rid of the T-bills. So there's no more, it's not a total wash yet, but generally they're not doing any thing in the so-called petrodollar. And so China has made an agreement with Russia. They're trading with oil and everything direct. Same thing with India. So India, China, Russia, mainly, the main players, ain't doing no more trade with US dollars. Germany is suing the IRS. They want their gold back. And then as you were showing, Brother Kadar just gave me an instrument earlier where the Caribbean nations are suing them for reparations.
And lingering effects of it.
Yeah, and ultimately the same foundation upon which the Caribs are suing them is basically what the Grand Chiefs of the Moorish Science Temple were supposed to be doing since the 20s. And this area is where it's called the Great Style. And as the brother was speaking earlier about Malcolm, you know, the issue that he had before the United Nations, when he, through goodwill, because he began to find out about nationality and was trying to represent, you know, the people in the United Nations, no such people exist. You know, so the claim is invalid. However, there was a lot of people that had compassion for his intent and his position, but there is no claim, because these people are Moors. Now, back to the Moorish American issue, the Afro-American, ETC. African and Moor in law and in linguistics are somewhat synonymous. You will find in Moor records and in general sociological records and across the planet that they will be referred to synonymously. Although at the same time, when you go into the true etymology, the Asiatic, African, and Moor is still synonymous. You know, and where they will not necessarily always say Asian, but they will say Asiatic, African, Moors, etc. The dominant species, you know, until the great genocide by the Christians, is people of Asiatic African descent, and thus the ancient Canaanite Moabites, which is the Moors, literally. And Moor is a short version of Moroccan, and Al-Moroccan is Moorish Latin, means descendant of Moroccans, and Al-Moroccan is also referred to as American. And these are the copper complexion people that the Europeans discovered when they came to the West, which is, again, why they thought they had reached India or Hindustan, which was their mission when they was trying to take over the gold and spice trade of the Moors during the 1400s. And so when Pedro the Moor navigated the Nino, or the voyage with Columbus, he took them to the Atlantis Islands, but they never hit the mainland. And this is how the term West Indian became applied to the Moors in the Western Hemisphere. And so a lot of people attach to the word Indian with a sense of legitimacy that it does not possess, if you understand. And see, so this is also why when Moors agree to be Indians, it still deals with the schism of divide and conquer, and why such persons called Indians come under the Bureau of Indian Affairs and thus back under the Europeans' jurisdiction, because no such people exist either.
Right.
If you get the point. Now, because Moors, the Moroccan Empire is so vast, And when you hear of the so-called British Empire, and they say the sun never rises or sets upon the British Empire, the reason they say that is because the hybrid Britons inherited by default of the wars the Moorish Empire, which spans both the northern and southern hemisphere of the earth and the eastern and western hemisphere of the planet. And so when you see, say, chapter 47 in the Circle 7 Quran, you will see a general aggregate outline of the Moorish Empire. Now, for the principle of colonial operations enforced, the Inquisition operations enforced by the Secret Treaty of Verona, the major hub of Roman operations comes from Washington, located in North Gate. And this is why you'll see in secret societies, Europeans refer to themselves as the keepers of the North Gate, which is a Masonic code for the controllers of the North American inheritance of the Moors, which is the heartland of the Moorish Empire, though it's not limited to North America. So this is the hub. And so when you look into the great super severe, or the dividing of the land in the ancient world before the great earthquake, the pharaohs of Hikupta, which you would call Egypt, which is the capital dominion of the Moorish Empire, the estate spans from northeast, northwest to southwest Africa, across the Great Atlantis, which was at that time a river, and into North, Central, South America, and including Mexico. Now, when you look at the linguistic code, because there's a linguistic code in the proclamation of the estate in chapter 47, because when it says North, Central, and South America, including Mexico, see, so it jumps back because you already know that Mexico is part of North America, and it appears to be a redundancy, but actually there's a linguistic code within that. The reason they're telling you that, because actually the Yucatan is the center of civilization. So, and you'd be schooled that in what you call your adult degrees, whether in the temples or in your highest degrees of masonry, right? Which is really keeping the secrets of you and your estate. So Moorish American is the designation, and Moorish American itself is actually a redundancy, because American and Moor is really the same thing. However, what it is to distinguish the direct heirs of the great lost estate, and that is in the Western Hemisphere. Although there's been occupation in the Eastern Hemisphere, you understand, the continued occupation, absolute, is in the Western Hemisphere. All right, and so therefore, the political forum and designation for the heirs to the lost estate was named or affirmed by the Prophet Muhammad for the claimants, so that anybody couldn't just claim your estate, and thus the political designation Moorish American. And any other claimants cannot make the claim. And so anyone of any other nationality, ultimately, in order to save themselves, as this collapse progresses, because it's already taken place, it's just they're politically controlling it. If you're not an heir, you have no claim. You get the point? Meaning that, say if you're Zimbabwean, you're a brother, but you have no claim here. Do you understand? Although we're still brothers. And this is so that those who have been also cooperating with the Europeans cannot take advantage of the heirs who are pretty much in the status of boys and girls in their mentality. And they have to be raised up and taught those things necessary to make them better citizens. However, them not knowing that they're part and parcel of this said government, they don't understand that they are the heirs to this parcel, to this estate. And so those things that are necessary to make them qualified to make any claims on their estate, they indeed must be competent. So that is the dispensation of fact that disqualifies any other claims, where people start making up names and making up claims, well, we're the left-hand golden seals of the Cherokee guys, brothers, you know, many of us are Cherokee, that you may call Cherokee tribal, but that's Anayanwea, and, you know, as a fact, where the European calls some of us Choctaw, you know, that's French, that just simply means chocolate people, you know, but the names, or the tribal names that the Europeans had put on us, we must make the distinctions from the tribal names, the connotations that the Europeans have said. Although we may use them teaching people, we must raise them to the degree of understanding the Aboriginal indigenous names in order to have right of claim.
Right.
And so you must know these things. Like, say, for instance, we're talking, say, presenting an argument to the people, and we'll say, you know, like many of us know that we're Cherokee, Blackfoot, you know, Lenape, ETC, according to the district or territory. We still know we're the same people. You already know that you must convert them into the proper local names, you know, Mohawk, you know, all these different terms. Those are European corruptions of the names, and are indeed not the names. And so the people are going to have to be retaught, so when they start making their claims, that they're absolutely correct. You know, Seminole, ETC, you know, you must understand that essentially they're just different territories of the Moorish nation. And this is also why it's important also for people to recognize the Europeans' need and necessity to maintain secret societies, different levels of Masonic orders, in order to preserve the knowledge for the elite or people who rule, and why they must take oaths of death not to reveal these truths, because even in the lodges they will not get to degrees the way you're getting them straight up. They'll get them in allegorical stories and signs and symbols. However, at the same time, if the masses knew the truth, they would have been freed a long time ago. Matter of fact, they would have pretty much rebelled, if you understand. And they certainly wouldn't be wasting their time marching and praying and keeping hope alive and following around overseers who they think are really leader guys, don't know that they're overseers. You know, so a lot of the dynamics that has controlled our communities would collapse, because the only reason they live and are able to continuously drain our communities because the people have blind faith in them. And I say blind faith because they don't know what they're dealing with. They assume one thing, but what they assume is not what's happening. That must be absolutely understood. That must be absolutely understood. So that may be wordy, but keep in mind, one of the problems that we have, even when we're doing instruments or even discussing things, is that we've been trained to abbreviate. Understand, it's designed to dilute and to rob you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So, particularly with brothers who may be just learning or maybe getting just new to this information generally, you must understand that the republic is de jure. Are we clear? Democracy is de facto. The republic is lawful. Democracy is unlawful. The republic is constitutional. The democracy is unconstitutional. These are fundamental principles that you have to know, that it already has to be in your mind, and you have to recognize documents from their construction, recognize their origin, so you can recognize whether they come from what you call a delegated construct or order, or whether they have origination under feudal law, which is de facto or fraud. Therefore, you must also have a fundamental knowledge of a timeline when the democracy order was set in place, like, say, for instance, in 1933. You know, I think I should put that up there too. Yeah, I'm going to put that up there. Now, Aleutian is derived from and related to Alu, meaning that which is allodial. And Aleutian, therefore, pertains to an allodial estate. And keep in mind, estate and status are equals. Keep those things in mind, all right? So I'm just telling you some things that are not written here, but you just got to have a body of information so you can recognize what you're reading, all right?
How you spell that, Aleutian?
A-L-E-U-T-I-A-N.
So like that's when they talking about, when they say the first.
If something is Aleutian, it's alluvial. Just think Aleutian, alluvial.
Okay, because they say that from the reconstructed history, that some of the Aboriginal people here was called Aluets, excuse me.
Yes.
You understand? Well, I was saying that it's a reconstructed
Yeah.
history, because you know it's like truth and falsehood, very
Yeah.
strangely mixed,
Yeah.
that they call some of the Aboriginal people Aluets, Aleuts.
Yes.
So I just was wondering.
And there's a
was that
relationship,
connected?
yes, there is.
All right, truly,
You know,
it's not.
Although they'll often present things like that as if it's tribal type thing,
Yeah.
but you already know it's really status, it's sovereign.
Right, all right. I
And this
got
is
it.
why you'll see a lot of, when you look at some of your older documents, or even certain pictures they'll have of the Aboriginals, they'll have noblewoman or nobleman,
Yeah.
you know, because we are the nobles of the land, we just didn't know that.
Most
And so
certainly.
this is part of why Noble Drawley brought our consciousness back to our actual status. And without knowing yourself, you cannot make the claim. Now, in a casual way, in a casual, common way that you hear every day, but is very rarely understood properly or dispensed properly, is when you hear the term that every man, woman, and child must confess their own and worship under their own vine and fig tree. In law, that's nationalization. Do you understand? Yeah, I'm saying people hear it that way, but don't know really what it means. It means nationalization. Nationalization comes from nativity. That's the claim of your mother. So the honor of your mother brings in the traditions and the common law, which we talked about earlier. You see the whole point? That's what trumps the statutory in legis. You see? Meaning, and so people must know that the honor of your mother and father plays part in law. And yes, it plays part in law, and this is it. Do you understand? And this is it. They must know that it plays part in law. Now, this is important for you all. Now, if y'all can write this down, I would prefer to you for us to kind of understand where we're going. Now, this part right here, Cowaranto, write that down, and then I'm going to expose the UCCs. Now, Cowaranto is a writ in the nature of a writ of right for the king or sovereign, or against he or she who would act or exercise the authority of an office or franchise or liberty, and to inquire by what authority he or she acts, and to produce the documented instrument upon which he or she was granted or delegated that authority. It is thus a writ commanding the defendant to produce for the record and show by what warrant he or she exercises such an office or franchise. It is a writ which has given place to an information in the nature of Cowaranto. Therefore, you would be constructing your writs like that. An information in the nature of a writ of Cowaranto, which, though in form a criminal proceeding, is in effect a civil remedy used in the United States, which is similar to the old writ used in England. And this writ is used in trying the title to a corporate entity or other franchise, or to any public office or to any corporate office. A writ in the nature of Cowaranto is intended to prevent the wanton exercise of powers and authority that are not conferred by law, treaty, constitution, and is not ordinarily available to regulate the manner of exercising such powers. Are we clear?
Correct.
There's more, but I figured that was enough, because I was doing a little bit of spell check on this, because Adiba did this for her orientation classes. And so I'm sharing it with you all because I think it's very effective. Now these, I want you all to write down these United States codes, because now whenever, like say for instance, when you're doing your documents, and very often you run into this, and we were talking about this earlier, we were talking about this, just before y'all came in, we were talking about this earlier, where is when you have your documents and they're neglecting to acknowledge your documents, or they try to alter them, change them from impropriate persona to pro se and stuff like that. Then you would use the United States Title 8, USC 1503. That's denial of rights and privileges as a national. That's law, and so you're going to pull this up and study it, etc. Now, yeah, these are titles, so write them down, and logically, to have it all written out is literally make a book. So we're giving you this, and this is your homework, so that you can start preserving your rights. And this will be particularly used when they start acting like they're out to lunch about your papers. Well, I don't know what that means. It's frivolous, and all that kind of dumb stuff. They start that stuff. I say, all right, you ready for Title 8. You know what I mean? So get familiar with these, because these are going to be remedies that you're using. All right? Because a lot of times, some of the conversations we'll get with people with them asking, well, what do you do when, you ask them for their bond, their EIN number, and they don't produce it, or they tell you they don't have it there, and then they start proceeding to exercise power? Keep in mind, this quo warranto that you just read is in relationship to these standard activities that these corporate entities do. So keep that in mind and keep that in the background of your head when you're dealing with them, all right? That's, it's the same principle you demanding a delegation of authority order, same principle. All right? And also, Title 8, United States Code, that's 1481, loss of nationality. And take note that enforcer agents lost their nationality. So keep in mind, so when they talk in trash, not only do you produce your proof of your nationality card, also ask them for theirs, and if they can't produce theirs, they ain't got no argument with you. Meaning that, number one, they're limited by constitutional operations anyway, and then without that, any claim they make is just dead anyway. So keep in mind, so now you're going to use these against them and use them within your instruments for remedy. Are we clear? So study them so that you'll have in your mind how to take what parts of violations that are made against you and charge them accordingly. And always use their names doing business as the corporate entity. Don't speak to the corporate entity. Corporate entity can't do anything. It never did anything. All right? So that's like saying, well, the state of New Jersey said, state of New Jersey didn't do anything. It said Fred Jones, he buys Knoxville Dinkle. Doing business, as a state of New Jersey, or Judge Bolotini Baloney Head, doing business as a state of New Jersey, said such and such or did such and such. Are we clear? Always take and pull those natural persons from behind the corpse, from behind the corporation, and place their name. Do you understand? And if you can't find their name, then name the mayor and the governor who hired this person who did not produce their stuff, right? All right. Now, Title 9, United States Code 13, that's papers titled with orders or order on motions, judgments, docketing, and effect enforcement. Get familiar with that, because if any of those instruments are flawed, you understand their claim is moot or dead. So learn to examine their constructions when they're presented to you, particularly like, say, if they send you some kind of thing, instrument, and they're demanding payments and there's no signature on it, which they're good with doing with tickets and other stuff. Remember, that makes their claim dead already, so you don't have to get into subject matter if there's improper service. Are we clear? So you want to learn to read writs and learn how to examine, look for flaws. The first thing you look is for flaws, all right? And keep in mind, like if they send you an instrument and says, well, you're in violation of didn't button your jacket code 259-405 with baloney on it and all that stuff, all those numbers, that's not adequate. They must write it totally out. Are we clear? Don't accept code violations from them, numbered without explanation. Are we clear? Are we clear? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, Title 15, United States Code 1312. This deals with civil investigation demands. Now, like say, for instance, like You sent them a court warrant, you sent them a discovery, demand for discovery disclosure, and they failed to answer, they're in default, then you would use this Title 15, that's the civil investigation demand. You wouldn't argue with them, you would command a civil investigation demands. Do you understand? All right, that's what that's for, all right? We'll do some more detail, we'll do some more maybe detail instructions on these independently, but as you can see, you can't do this in a few hours. So I'm making it available to you so that you can do your studies responsibly. You know what I mean? Now, this is also like when they start taking your cars and arresting you for not having a license or something like that, or no registration. Understand that's a violation of law. This would come under hostage taking and also under kidnapping. Are we clear?
Yes.
So, what about insurance?
Same thing, doesn't matter. Same thing. See, this is again why it's important for us to get our people grounded in this information, because those are their contracts, adhesion contracts, where they're converting rights into crime. In other words, the common natural person doesn't need any of that. They've been entertaining Ku Klux Klan law under the democracy system. That's why I'm not up a little further, near the top of the document, and I said you need to know the distinction between democracy and the republic. See, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution establishes a republican form of government for every state in the Union. They cannot entertain any other type of law. They are foreign and they are committing war crimes. You need to know that. So licenses misclassified, put on natural persons itself is a war crime. It's just that the politicians are so corrupt, they've been protecting each other. And by our people not knowing, they've been waiving their rights so they don't know how to argue against these things. They start saying, well, I had my license last week, but when I went around the corner of McDonald's, I lost my license. Ain't your license.
That's right.
That's an extortion instrument imposed upon you under a color of law, under feudal law, under the democracy system set up in 1933, having nothing to do with any constitutional law whatsoever. In fact, it's a violation of constitutional law. And this is another reason why, we've been passing out for years under driver's license fraud, so people can understand the stare decisis res judicata, etc. Those are established law of lands, whereas driving, so-called driving without a license, registration, even going through a stop sign, none of them are arrestable offenses. And so if that's not arrestable, your property is an extension of yourself. That means they can't take your stuff either. And they've been taking your hoopty and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So understand when they do that, you're going to start using these codes against them. So I want you to research these so that you can recognize the remedies. Good. Speak loud.
I'm having a problem, right? Like where I live at.
No, you live in your body.
Whoa.
Again, your language is going to change, but go ahead.
You down, bro? Round, well, I parked my,
You talk to the brother he goes to school. Yeah.
Domicile, North America.
Now, as I was saying to you all earlier, your language is going to change when you correct your status. So a lot of times if we stop you when you're talking, it's not because we're not recognizing what you're trying to say, but we're trying to make sure that you become competent. Because it's just like training for boxing. You're here for training in civic and in civilization. And understand that, just like if you're sparring in-house, you're going to get smacked around a little bit so that you can respect the game. Because when you get out there, they're going to try to take your head off. So don't think that we're being hard when we correct you. We're correcting you because it's necessary. Because you're going to have to change your language. Culture is in the language. Continue. Yeah.
Well,
And then now you're gonna study to see what that means, right?
yes, yes, sir.
National domicile and all the types of domicile. All right. And talk to me.
In my domicile, I park my property in front of it, and they keep telling me that I have to have a registered, what is it, a registration?
Yeah, they're saying that. All right, now, what is your attribute of nomin?
Like my nationality?
Your nomin. What's your nomin? Nationality, name.
Oh, my name, my nationality name?
What's your name?
Jabez Ahmed.
You're nationalized.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm just new to,
well,
studying.
you're new to the consciousness.
Yeah.
You ain't new to the bloodline.
Yeah.
And that must be clear with you. You understand what I'm saying? You're just becoming conscious of your bloodline. Now you must become conscious of their position as foreigners on your land, and you must also become conscious of the fact that their nation, their juristic, statutory nation has been dissolved. And even if it were not, they would still have limited jurisdiction. They're assuming that you're 14th Amendment, so you're going to have to study such things to demonstrate that you're not. Now, this is also where Noble Drawley says, I want active Moors, not passive Moors, which means you must be competent to act, as opposed to, being conscious is not good enough. It is not a put down. Because you're in a game of war, they're warring against you. And so you're going to have to be as dedicated to restoring your consciousness to what your nationality is as they are dedicated to stealing. Their business is stealing and living off your virtues. That's what colonialism is. And they're not playing. And so you're going to have to make sure that you're competent. So just now, finish whatever else you want to ask.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was
Now, and so you're going to go into this. Now, on the site, rvbaypublications.com, you'll see Writs of Freedom, etc. And you will also see flyers that we pass out. Oh, you have any flyers right now?
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody new?
Anybody first time here?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, within that, you're going to see one of the bifolds that deal with democracy, republic democracy. You want to get familiar with that, right? And there's a flyer in here that deals with, do you know your rights? And then adjacent to that, you're going to see the oath of ethics that policemen take. Now, I want you to study both of those documents, learn to write a writ, and you're going to respond to them in writing. The other deal that you all want to be aware of, you're going to limit what you talk to them, what you say to them verbally. You're going to do most of all your communications in written form.
yes.
Are we clear?
Yeah.
All right, so just keep that in mind, all right? Gadar, what was you saying earlier?
I'm sorry, go ahead, guys. No, you see me hand written form or type?
Type written, but
Okay.
in writing.
Okay.
Whether constructed, type constructed, meaning that this is what you've got to recognize with them. Understanding that they're colored. Colored means they're fraud.
Exactly.
Do you understand? Artificial. This is why it's also dangerous to call yourself a colored person, because our people have been trained to make them think that that's Afrocentricity. What it means is artificial person. And so if you're an artificial person, that's an admission that you're 14th Amendment. And so if you're a 14th Amendment, that means you are not deserving and don't need human rights because it's not part of the human family, which is what it was designed for. It's a corpse. Are we clear? That's where they constructed or made the corpse a living entity, artificially living. Therefore, its life is beholden to the corporate state. And this is where the wardship tenures come in with the construction of the ward of the state. This is why when anybody gets married and gets one of their certificates, that the certificate is filed in the Department of Orphans. And the state claims to own the womb and the children, the offspring. Do you understand? So you must know how all these things work and why they work the way they work. It must be grounded in you so that, because a lot of questions that you would end up asking, you would know already by understanding what you're working with. Meaning like, It'll take a minute only because you have to purge your mind of misconceptions. You understand? And learn the chess pieces, learn what they do, and know what their limitations are, and look at constitutions and treaties as regulators on the same principles in the upper world and the lower world. So the positive and the negative, so look at the black and white blocks as a SAR and a set. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Those principles are applied in government. Are we clear? This is why in all the lodges they have black and white tiles. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? That's what that really represents. And so you have the higher self and lower self. You have positive, what you call jurisprudence, and you have color of law. And so you want to be, this is where the principle says white means purity, purity means God, God means the ruler of the land, the sovereign. And then the matriarchal principle of nature itself, which is why the queen is the most powerful piece, even though the king is being protected.
That's right.
You get the whole point? It's matriarchy.
I just wanted to add something
It's fine, go ahead.
to the brother's statement earlier, that, when we're dealing with the terrorization of our personal property, like Grand Sheikh Taj says, this whole system acts off a presumption. They're going to presume that you are a minority or a corporate fiction until you rebut the presumption. So in order to do that, we had to take clear steps or do things in clear notice that will give them an indication from the gate that property is personal property. So if you put a sticker on your sign, we talked about this.
Private property.
Private property. We should all be having stickers on our car that says non-commercial, not for hire, private property. If you follow that sticker up, small sticker, follow it up with a few letters that go to the code enforcement agencies, that go to the mayor's office.
In the territories of jurisdiction, that wherever your domicile may be, you make sure that the operatives of the corporate entities, because remember, this is what we can't emphasize this enough, and this is the assumption of jurisdiction.
Right.
And this is why it's important for you to know who you are, because there's nobody here but us.
Right.
In other words, you're either the Aboriginal, or you come and you're exercising it.
Right.
Or you're European, or somebody, minion or familiar under their jurisdiction. There is nothing else, so don't entertain your mind that you can just make up stuff and think you're going to get out of this, because it ain't going to happen.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because anybody that does not have what you call an heirship claim can't make any right of claim. You always should write this down. Anyone that cannot make an affirmative heirship claim is incapable in law of making a right of claim, whether of status or estate. And that should be remembered. Because I think a lot of times, even when we get into struggle, those who know, of always, because we're always looking for remedy, because the European is constantly trying to counter anything that is constitutional. And if we kind of keep that in mind, it'll keep us clear in our thoughts. Because again, as we talk very often, you'll find that a lot of times across the country, sometimes when you're trying to help brothers and sisters to get in problems with either private property themselves or with their children, with the states, etc., if you examine a lot of times, you'll see that their status is not clean. Their fundamental moral argument is correct, but their status is not clean, more often than you think. And a lot of times we assume when people get this knowledge that they've cleaned up their status for the record, and they often have not. But then they're exercising the sovereign power of the nation state for their benefit, which is an implication of imposing the common law to trump the statutory codes. And then as soon as this man sees his brand, Smith, Jones, and Johnson, he laughing. I mean, and people get frustrated because they've studied and they've done a lot of things to try to bring remedy and keep forgetting that nationality and citizenship are synonymous. Status which includes all, also your rights, your standings, and your capacities and your incapacities. And it also deals with all properties, estate, you see, and that must be grounded. Not enough emphasis is put on that. And a lot of times when the Europeans are exposing a lot of the information relative to the color, they will stay away from that area because they don't fit. And this is why when you see a lot of Europeans, they'll bounce through the HMOs, which they used to do about 25 years ago, and then come into the UCCs, and then come into the Christian sovereign argument, and then now they're arguing state national, and they work, and then keep hitting against the wall, and where they thought they had it and they ain't got it. And this is why you see a lot of them Europeans are denouncing their U.S. citizenship as a last-ditch measure and declaring their nationality in another nation state and trying to move whatever assets they got and open up accounts in some offshore account. Which you also must note that many of the nation states of Europe, etc., are not opening up any new so-called American accounts.
Right.
Because remember, they're member party members to the secret treaty of Rome. And so it's like this, without nationality, because they trying to bounce around. And when you really look at it, it's still back to the issue. They're trying to argue a sovereign right that don't belong to them, because they are not Americans. And then when you look at their claim of constitutional rights, and this is where many of them are running into a flat wall when the judges are telling them you're not a party to the Constitution, therefore you cannot use it to defend yourself. And this is where people who are not heirs, they're not going to tell you that, who are not heirs trying to make a claim, and then people who claim to be U.S. citizens and then try to claim that sovereign right, which is a conflict because they forget that a U.S. citizen is an artificial statutory citizenship and that the corporation was dissolved in 1933. Therefore, all franchises from a legal quo warranto were dissolved. They don't damn exist. And nobody's saying anything because they don't want the chaos, which is obvious. And again, this is redundant. Why you see a lot of the agencies like Social Security, etc., have ordered 174,000 rounds of hollow point bullets. What do you think? You're going to write checks with them?
Brother Tom.
Islam.
Islam, everybody. You also all want to write down the clear field doctrine. It's called clear field doctrine. And then you'll understand a little bit more about what the brother Mo is saying. Whenever these people come to you and they have anything on them, even a notebook pad that the police carry, if they have anything on them that's commercial paper, then they lose their immunity and they become private citizens. They're private citizens like your neighbor. So
Not
they
just
don't
that.
have a right to ask you anything.
Now, not just that, but keep in mind, they have no citizenship whatsoever because 90% of them are simply Klan members and Europeans. This is another reason, and don't call them white people, because as soon as you call them white people, because you're an heir, this is the subtleties in language. Like say if you don't really understand this, and you're talking to a European, or you're in what you call one of those agency venues, and you call them white, you just assigned them as your trustee. If you didn't know that. That's the danger of language and not knowing what the hell you're talking about. Because white man is a legal status, it's not a complexion.
That's why they say anything you say will be what?
Used against you. And they've been using it. And as soon as you say you black, you're the lowest of your cattle.
And the Clearfield Doctrine states that anytime they're doing commerce, anytime they're doing any kind of commerce, which is always turning out to be something you gotta pay them.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to this anyway.
Okay, anytime they're doing commerce, they're a private agency. They don't have anything to do with any
Which they
government.
always was and
They're
only
all
are.
private agencies. So So when you get their names, do not get their titles, use their names, and you can sue them privately. You can take everything they have. And that goes for tickets or anything. If they come and ask you for anything, that's your private information. You're a private individual. You're not, you don't have anything to do with their de facto, okay? So look up the Clearfield Doctrine and study it. You'll understand what we're talking about a little more here. None of them are government agencies. They're saying they are, but anytime they're doing commerce or trying to ask you for something or demand you owe something, then they're not representing any government agency, basically. They're all individuals.
If they use it, they'll use United States codes and different statutes, and they'll put that in their, their thing.
Yeah, and remember, if you put a lien on any of them, if you do any liens or anything, make sure you don't say judge such and such or officer such and such. Use their private name. Use their private name, and then that way you'll have better results. And you can also, in order to get a judgment, you could take these people to small claims courts.
Yeah, start with small claims.
Start at small claims, get a judgment, then you can go anywhere with that judgment, okay?
Especially when they default on any of your commands relative to them dispensing their EIN numbers, their bonds, and their oaths, etc.
Well, I was going camelback off the traveling situation. I had, years back, I had created my own plate, from a rubber stamp company,
Yeah.
and created my own plate. And it was, for years I had no issue. For years. Once I took it, then after that, I, went into a relationship, all that crack, right? As soon as I took it off, the wife bought a regular tag.
Yeah.
As soon as I done it,
It's their stuff.
I started getting all kinds of.
It's their stuff.
I'm telling you, been driving with my own thing for years.
Yeah.
Never had a problem. As soon as I decided to handle that.
Now look at it like this. Now look like this. And remember this. Knowing what you know, right? You should know that in law, a slave or someone held as forced servitude remains a slave. And the black codes apply. Now, being in a consciousness of a free man, you must maintain that status. And if she's not willing to do that, you should never put any property in her name, because as soon as you do, state got it. And remember, the registration is a transfer to the corporate trust. It goes on the stock market. And so they can mad at you because, they're going to say, oh, how come you didn't fasten your seatbelt in my car?
How you get the car from the lot without the registration?
Oh, it's the same thing. I've done it quite a few times.
Yeah, there's car dealers that.
You got to pay cash? I mean, you can't go through no finance.
No, see, because you're never really paying.
Yeah, exactly.
No, all right. So first of all, even, like say for instance, like if you're dealing with a person that's doing business, you would not necessarily argue with them that you would do with some corporate entity, even though they're corporate entities. Like say if you're dealing with a private person, you give them some compensation, although you already know it's credits against your credit, like a Federal Reserve note, right? And you'd make what is called a pure title contract, a pure title, a pure trust, or pure title contract. And then you would write, transfer such goods, and you name the goods, describe it, etc., from this natural person, transfer to this natural person for 2,500 Federal Reserve notes in lieu of 2,500 lawful United States dollars as per Article 1, Section 10, etc. And inclusive and for good faith, you've given them a silver dollar, lawful United States money, etc., for transfer of goods UTC, and you carry that in your car.
And you know what else?
And you make sure they have a copy, you have a copy. Now, what I've done very often, like I was working on my brother's house, New York, and I bought a Jeep Comanche. That's like the pickup Jeep off of car lot, right? And so I used my nationality card. I didn't pay the tax, but I did compensate them for 2,300 notes and wrote a contract for that. And I drove that up to New York with no tag on it. You know, I bought an Audi when I was in New York and drove it down here with Morris tags. Now my niece had, but I didn't use it. It was a nice Audi, big Audi. And she had taken it and crashed it on 30th Street, right? And I had Morris tags on it, and I had the papers for the pure contract in it. I didn't find out until I came back from New York, but they took her to the hospital, took the children, made sure they were all right, took her home and everything. They took the car, but she got no tickets, and they went to court. You understand? And she didn't have a license either. You know, but the pure contract, the principal takes it out their jurisdiction. But any instrument that you do or you use in their jurisdiction, they're claiming it. You know, and this is what the basis is, and this is why, you know, it takes time, and realistically, you know, we're not trying to beat up on our people, but you have to study, and we don't tell people to do things until they really study, until they understand. And so it's incumbent upon you, that's us collectively, to clean up your institutions. And that's that construction of operations, political operations, is part of the regency functions of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which has been neutralized by misappropriation of leadership, if you understand. However, you must know that's what the function is. And so, meanwhile, what you want to do until collectively we can get certain things corrected amongst our own with proper government structure and brother and sexton operations is establish a state. You're going to do an estate trust and put everything you got in trust, including your sneaks. You know, they over $150. They people heirs. Put them in trust. Because it's like this, anything, you know, it's like your brother was saying, anything that you don't have in estate and in your proper person, they're claiming it. It's an assumed jurisdiction. It's a fraud, but that's how they operate, and that's what you must know, and so you must counter it with pro-action. Do you understand? And again, like I say, a lot of things we can't go over in necessarily every class, so a lot of this stuff will be redundant to you because you have different people coming from different degrees, and we don't want to keep going like that. You know, so we'll drop certain information, trusting that you get grounded in it while we're trying to gradually bring people up to a state level. You understand? Islam said, Ron.
Islam. I'm gonna pass my phone around. I want all y'all to take a look at this picture. This is a picture of a certificate of origin for automobile. I got a tractor trailer. I'll haul brand new Fords, trucks, cars, whatever. All right, well, I'll pull it back up. But what I'm about to show y'all is an original certificate of origin. That's a title for a vehicle. You never had one.
No.
For people who live in
they get a certificate.
You get a certificate of
title.
So because you get a certificate of title, that means there's an original title somewhere. And none of y'all have it. None of us have it.
I want to give them.
Your title, your certificate of title says from the state of so-and-so. But this certificate of origin I got right here, got the Ford emblem in the middle, because that's who manufactured the car. These COs have the make of the car, the year, the weight, the date it was manufactured, the whole nine. That's the title for a car.
How do you get that? You
I guess if you go to the dealer
now,
and you give them the exact amount of notes.
Yeah, no. This is what they do. No, this is what must be understood. No, do all those things necessary relative to yourself, putting yourself in proper person. and you write a demand, you know, you dismiss the bottom instrument of the birth certificate and things that they have claimed on the stock market on your body person, being in your proper person, and you write to the corporate state trustee, to whom that title of origin was presented. Because this is how they've set it up. They've set it up like, say, when cars come to dealers, the distributors will deliver the certificate of title, the true title, to the corporate state, and the state will construct a certificate of title and then send that to you, which is a fraud and conspiracy in the first instance. Being aware of that and understanding that the corporate state are holding you yourself, your body, and your person and person. So you got to be clear the mystery of person and person, right? In trust. This is how they generate the finance against your estate. So you command the delivery of the title of origin, but being your proper person when doing so. As a matter of fact, we'll construct something and put it up.
That sounds like the
That's
same
related to-
method that they use for the birth certificate.
It is. It's the same. That's why you got it. This is the deal. You take charge of your estate, or it's considered abandoned. And keep in mind that estate and status are equals. So you're not changing your status, you're correcting your status and thus changing your condition in relationship to your status. Do you understand? There was a correction, a reclamation of your name and title is a claim of right. It is not so much a change itself. So you're not changing your name, you're correcting your name and title and thus changing your status. You understand? Because that's a right, that's a birthright. And this is why it's important for people to understand birthright, because a lot of times people think that they're administratively seeking permission from anyone to change their name type mentality, you know, when the name is yours by title right. It's by birthright. The interesting and more reasonable thing to do is to be properly educated while doing it, rather than just doing it haphazardly just because it's your birthright. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But understand, still, it's your birthright, and no one can own it.
Yeah, that's how I moved with the A for V at one point. I don't have no UCC 1 or 3. I'm not nationalized yet, but
Yeah.
it went through.
Yeah.
For my student loan.
Yeah.
And I seen some Europeans doing it. That's why I first got it.
Yeah.
I seen them go, I said, oh, this must work. Let me try it. And I tried it. They didn't say anything back to me. And I was listening to this more sister talk. She was giving like a speech, and she was saying they had like this code of silence that they do. But when I called them, they said my account was negative. I didn't have a balance.
Because remember, because at 12 o'clock, anyway, every business day at 12 o'clock, everything goes to zero anyway. They're lying constantly because they're bankrupt. You understand? And we can't emphasize enough that while the BS is going on, for our people to declare their nationality and understand it. Because it's like this, they're going to BS and they're going to bounce back and forth with a bunch of BS until this thing just absolutely collapses. I mean, they're going to ride this roller coaster until it runs out of track. Understanding that, don't be expecting, morally you can expect justice, intellectually, don't. Just be in your proper person so as this thing collapses, that the estate automatically falls in your hand. Do you understand? And be competent. Meanwhile, know for a fact that they're going to be trying to eliminate the creditors by whatever means, even death. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So we're for peace and not destruction, but understand they're playing dirty deck. Do you understand? They're playing dirty deck. And they're going to do what they have to do, not morally, not ethically, but politically. And they call the rule of necessity. Now, at the same time, understand that nation states around the world, while we speak, are already meeting with intentions of dealing with that. So as we speak, you have nationals from many nation states right now, as we're speaking, in Humvees across this country. And that are in training, and been in here for quite a while, because they're going to preserve their interest here. Because they already know that these people in government are imposters. It's just that they have control of the war machine. The Pope's war machine, do you understand? This is another reason why the Pope did the motu proprio, because they already know that the nations are coming after them for war crimes. And they're trying to take the high road as if the problems of the world don't have origin with the Christian black codes and the secret treaty of Rome, which they absolutely do. You know, but this is back to where our people need to be aware of what they're dealing against, you know, what's against them. Because having no knowledge of what's really operating against you, you have a tendency to fall into the ridiculous race arguments, which is not what's going on. What's going on is the enforcement of Christian black codes and the secret treaty of Verona. You know, and so when you make your legal arguments for your estate, you're going to be mentioning these when they continue to abridge. And this is also why you do your CCs, your courtesy copies, to also outside agencies like Interpol, International High Court of Justice, ETC, stuff like this. And any claims that you might make on them, you're going to do a small claims court and then make your claim in a district court. Even though knowing that they're under color, you want to operate that way in order to have it on the record, the operations of their fraud. So just keep those things in mind, and especially the young brothers that may, you know, just be getting some of this information, so that you can start immediately getting mentally where you really need to be with this information. Because remember, as brothers and sisters look just like me and you, that's going to try to take advantage of you while you're green behind the ears, which we have a problem with. However, the only thing that can stop it is you being educated. Limited. It's not good, brother.
You made a statement earlier, and
Microphone.
Islam. You had made a statement earlier, and we got sidetracked to another topic. You said anyone who cannot make an affirmative heirship claim cannot.
Say loud.
You said anyone who cannot make an affirmative heirship claim cannot. And then it was,
Yeah. All right. Well, let me. The best way I can make for you to understand it. Basic passes here. I want you to read this, so it becomes yours too. All right. So I want you to go to wardship. So hold the mic to his mouth while he's so that you can understand. And then we're going to go from wardship, right? Now, keep in mind, read that. Now, listen, keep in mind, in law, they will condense because of space keeping. So you're going to have to put, like, sometimes you have to re-include in your mind the conjunctions and stuff like that. All right. Now read that.
Wardship. In military tenures, the right of the Lord to have custody as guardian of the body and hands of the infant heir, without any account of profits, until he was 21 or she 16.
Now stop right there. Now they're talking about suckers, that means babies. But listen, this is where you must understand that persons who are held to wardship, and understand that the government that are operating, they're like trustees. And you're an heir. You just don't know you're heir. Now, even if you're adult, you will consider a boy or girl or a minor or minority. This is why these classifications were made up. And our people need to be aware consciously, what role do these different classifications making society that they thought just meant Afrocentricity. They're legal statuses. Now, for you being an heir to have right to your claim, notice how they're making profits? They're not accounting for the profits.
Right.
This is the instruments, how they use all the bodily instruments, birth certificates, marriage certificates, driver's license, all in the stock market. People think it's some kind of holy roly thing to God, and they don't know it's government ordinance department. They think it's the creator. It's the government ordinance departments of the popes of Rome on the secret treaty of Rome. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And so by them not knowing culture, they don't know that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And these, how and why things must actually, they must be taught things that have been held back from them. Do you understand? Now, anyone who is not in their proper person has no claim of right. Do you understand? Now we're going to go to in propria persona. We're going to go to in, I, and one word. Dr. Nyla, good seeing you. Them earrings, sister. I see it. All right. In propria persona, right here. Now read it.
In propria persona, in one's own proper person.
Now that's what it means in Latin. So that's a double possessive, isn't it? One's, apostrophe S, one's own, double positive, isn't it? So it's really driving the point home, meaning it's a great emphasis on that. Now continue to read. In one's own proper person. Translation in common language, that would be being yourself. Therefore, to be yourself, you must know yourself. Now, read.
It is a rule in pleading that pleas to the jurisdiction of the court must be pled in propria.
Now, the word must is what? An affirmative. That means there's no option outside of that. Read it. Now, read it again.
It is a rule in pleading that pleas to the jurisdiction of the court must be pled in propria persona. Because if pleaded by an attorney, they admit the jurisdiction. As an attorney is an officer of the court, and he is presumed to plead after having obtained leave.
So now, if you're not in proper person, the court automatically has jurisdiction. So if you're trying to make some kind of claim and assume you got a claim of right, that's just an assumption on your part because you don't. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, our people think they do because they just assume. Now you're going to look up status. And this is for your approbation, but also keep in mind when you begin to exercise your rights and you're declaring your nationality and your proper person, and they are violating you, use these. We're going to have some more for you, but this is all because we only want to do one page. But there's more to this, but this should be suffice to support your mental concept of understanding that there are some remedies. It's not limited to this, but don't fail to study this. Go ahead, read, brother.
Status. Standing, state, or condition.
Now, look at this, and this is where you will include, remember it's a law book, so you will include what is obvious. You say the standing, the state, or the condition. You see? All right, go ahead, read.
Let me give it a lot.
Status is the standing, the state, and the condition.
All right. The legal relation of individual to the rest of the community.
So it's the status is the legal relationship and relation of the individual to the rest of the community. So there's a comparative issue, isn't it? And so there's what you call measurable law, isn't it? You must be aware of that. Now, if you're not aware of that, logically, you're not going to claim it, are you? And so if you don't know yourself, and you don't know that you must be in your proper person, you're not going to clean up your status, are you? Now, are you starting to see how nationality falls in place?
Yes.
Or continue to read.
The rights, duties, capacity.
It is the rights, or you can say it relates to, or concerns, or it involves the rights, the duties, the capacities, and the incapacities. Read it like that. What is common, what you recognize what it's saying to you.
It is the rights, the duties, capacities and the incapacities which determine a person to a given class.
So these people don't know that their status determines their class in society. If they're not taught that, they just assume that they got rights, don't they? Well, guess what? Continue to read.
A legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the party.
So just because these people get some information, it ain't terminable just because, oh, I got these UCCs. I learned the administrative process. Oh, I got this. I just filed me a financial statement. Oh, you did, huh? All right. Assumptions, isn't it? Continue to read. And this is the greater important part of it right here. Read there. Status also, where it says status also means what?
It also means a state.
So status means a state, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Continue to read.
It signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property.
Not to be assumed, is it? Is it?
No.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
All right. Therefore, make sure that you have your tools. Now, remember, we all have issues, so make sure you have your tools. And those who need 4th edition law dictionaries, see Brother Nabi and Sister Nisa. Also, for those who need to stamp their instruments with the 192, you also will get them from Sister Nisa and Brother Nabi. So they're available. Also, anybody needs their fezzes, they have them for you. Concept. And so even while you're getting some of these instructions, it's important for you to invest in your tools because you're going to need these tools to correct your language. Meaning that you're going to have to invest in your own education because the European is not educating you, he's making educated illiterates in order that when you begin to find these things out that you would be incompetent. Are we clear? This is why we try to suggest to you to support the institutions that support you. Do you understand? And there's going to be very few who do, because most people will hold these secrets from you, watch you suffer, and take part in the exploitation of their own people. They're called overseers. This is why you'll find that most of your marching, praying preacher leaders are Masons, while condemning Masonry across the pulpit. In fact, they are themselves Masons and got a Moorish fez in secret and pretending not to know that you are Moors. Do you understand? And getting kickbacks from Rome with a 501c3 agreement with Skull and Bones member Lyndon Baines Johnson for controlling his marching Negro preacher guys to keep their sheeple under control. That's what the 501c3 agreement is. Do you understand? So, it's not good, brother.
Peace. I just wanted to know one thing, Morsh. Say if I had a car accident, and the insurance company, I took them to court. It was State Farm's. Don't I have a right to face my accused with Mr. State Farm?
Sure.
And if they don't show up, that's fraud, automatic dismissal.
Oh, sure, default. Now, use these UCCs right here from USCs.
Yeah.
So get a piece of paper and write them down. All right? Islam.
I just wanted to add on one piece on Islam. I just wanted to add on one piece on the status in the state connection. If you look up the word ancestral in the Black's Law, it also breaks down what an ancestral estate is, and that brings in the nationality part to enhance the status, or the claim to status, because we are the true Americans.
And that's right of claim.
And if you look up the word absolute, it qualifies what an absolute estate is, to add on and enhance to the status. Islam.
Islam. I love this brother because he's a stud. He always got his skates on. And so you young brothers, start communicating with the brother because you can learn a lot from him. You know, so we have to kind of share. Don't put too much burden on him because he's doing everybody's work as it is. But he got good heart, and you know, helped you out. Again, you're satisfied?
Yeah.
It's clear? And again, this is why it's important for our people to kind of understand really and one of the reasons, again, why I let you read it, so it becomes yours. I'm not just telling you, so you can understand in law, this is a law dictionary, which means this is what people know about us from the door.
Right.
And we're like often taking positions or assuming things, and they're looking you straight in your eye knowing that your status is dead. And let you be sitting frustrating yourself. Man, I got my rights because I marched when they had to be. I got my rights. What are they? Well, you know what I mean. No, what are they? Well, everybody got rights because I'm a U.S. citizen. Oh, 14th Amendment. See, little things like that where people take assumptions and don't even know they're putting themselves right in a servitude that they think they're getting out of because they don't know law. And so do yourself a favor, those who don't have it, invest in your law books. Get a 4th edition at minimum. This is demonstrative, and this is best for all scholars. Now, I know that some people get 5th and 6th, but don't waste your finance on them. If you get them in a secondhand store, put them on your shelf just because you ain't going to waste them, but don't waste your finance, I'm telling you. Because you're going to need the 4th, 3rd, one like that. Those are the monsters. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And the deal of it is, everything from the 5th out, they start watering them down because they knew that you would start reading. Are we clear? Yes, and now, that's good for just carrying, just like when you're on the, when you're on the bus, in the park or something, whatever, on the toilet, whatever. However, if you're serious, hardcover, even if you're dealing with dictionaries, you want unabridged dictionaries, you want an Oxford, you want an etymology dictionary on the English language, necessary. Try to get the older books if possible.
I got Webster with the picture of Noah on the front.
Old one. Yeah, and if you can get 18, what's it, 1828?
Noah Webster.
Yeah, 1828 is even better.
The first black one?
No, we got a, this picture right there.
Islam Morris. Yeah, while Brother Taj is eating, I would like to, if those of you who did not leave your donation, we need to collect that now. Normally it's $10 we ask, and that helps to pay and support what we're doing here, and as well as giving Brother Taj some fuel back and forth. So we need you to, some of you did, but not many. So, and most of you aren't new, and you know, so I want to ask that you would do that. And while I have the mic, I just want to say that while we are so appreciative that we're able to host Brother Taj twice a month and you're able to come down, I have to be honest with you, a lot of times people don't tell the truth of what the way things really are. And I know some of the brothers are telling me, don't do this, but I'm about to let this place go because I don't have the support. We have a very, very small group. It's not your fault, but we have a very, very small group on Sunday that's gotten smaller. You know, people get, you know, we don't tie anybody to speak to the fire, hold their feet to the fire like they do in other organizations. But because our resources, our income is going down, I just can't do it by myself. You know, so there may be some things happening where some of the brothers are trying to help me do some things so that I can free up some finances so that I can do it. But this is, House of Ram is not me. You all understand what I'm saying? House of Ram is our house. Whether you live in Delaware or not, you come here, you know, we come here, we get the knowledge. We're here 2, 3, 4 days, 4 days a week, 4 times a week. And we just don't have the fiat coming in. It still works. You know, while you still got the fiat, that's what we have to use. And so I'm asking you to kind of hold me in high vibration, this house,
because I don't want to shut it down, but I'm leaning that way because I don't have the support. And I hate the thought that I'm, dealing with right now, but the reality is that I cannot foot a $1,200 a month bill and my house too. So when you come, we just ask that, you would support. We ask for a $10 donation. And I appreciate it for those who also sometimes put something over here for the food. Because normally we don't ask for anything, but if you give me a donation for, because I work 8-10 hours and then I come home and cook. That's why it takes me so long to get here. I'm a director, I'm a department head, so I have a demanding job. But every twice a month, I know that I better have some vegetarian something here for you folks, my brothers and sisters. And so we just ask that you would be consistent in helping us. And also, if anybody feels it in their heart to say, I figure we got 100 people that gave $10 a month. We can keep things going. You know what I mean? Over and above, if we had a regular 100 people giving $10 a month, we could run the house. I'll put the other money up. You see what I mean? I always put, there was a time when I was giving like $600 a month. And now we need 12, and we have about 4 coming in. So do the math. So we really need your support. You really need your support. You can't read my mind. So I'm telling you what's on my mind and what's on my heart. I want to keep House of Ram here. I want you all to have a place to come. We had Dr. Kaba Hiawatha here till 2 o'clock Sunday morning. Was it Sunday morning? I think I went home about 2 o'clock. I left him here. We really have some people. We've had Dr. Umar Johnson. We have Brother Taj twice a month. Some people would just die, kill to get here. You see what I mean? You got people all sitting in other parts of the country looking at YouTube, wishing they could be sitting in this class. And you get to be up close, personal.
Islam Marshall. Listen, she asked for a $10 donation when we come in. Twice a month. That's $20. 20 notes that she asked for a donation. Most of us spend almost that on breakfast and lunch when we go to work every day. So a couple notes more ain't gonna kill none of us. It's only twice a month. You think about sneakers you might buy for 100 notes. You think about a hat you might buy every other 2 weeks for 30 notes. I don't know how y'all feel about Taj, but I've been around Taj 3 years now. And I bring Taj down here, I take Taj home, I call Taj on the phone, Taj will call me. I still get chills when I get around this guy. I don't know how y'all feel about Taj, but that's how I feel about Taj. The education that we get from Taj, that we get from Roz, we get from Miss Raheem, and Abdullah, go try and get it from Temple. Go try and get it from the University of Penn. And see on day one, every 3 months, about 12,000 notes. So if she asked for 10 and we gave her 20, is it gonna kill any of us? I don't think so. We're gonna get this kind of education anywhere else? I don't think so. I'm 37, I just found out about my nationality 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Some of y'all older than me and just finding out about it. A couple more notes ain't gonna hurt nobody. If she gotta close this place down, then the people down here in Dublin, what they gonna do? Where they gonna go? They're gonna be scrambling around trying to find somewhere else to go, and then everybody gonna disperse, and then ain't gonna be no classes. And then what? The information is lost all over again. Tony Browder said that once we knew it all, and we taught others, and then we forgot what we learned. And although we're learning again, what he said is we're gonna forget again. And that's what's gonna happen if she loses this place. We're gonna forget again. Let's not forget again. Islam.
That's one of my favorite things. Transition 13. God, I love Transition 13. God.
Those who have papers, share them with those who don't so they can copy this stuff, because it's important. because we're going to be going over some of these things in detail, particularly like Title 8 and 15 more in detail in the future. But y'all want to get grounded with this stuff. Well, keep this in mind also. 453, oaths of justice and judges. You're going to use that also when you're commanding their oath. And the reason why some of them are less cooperative, they're less cooperative because they know that they're committing criminal activity. Not because they're ignorant. And according to law, they're held to the law. There's no such, keep this in mind too. There is no such claim coming from any public servant or public official that they don't know the law. Are we clear? So never accept a statement from either them or anybody that a politician or public servant doesn't know the law. In law, they're required to know the law. And in law, any culpable action is culpable action, and there is no excuse to the law, and they're held more dearly to it than any ordinary citizen. Are we clear? So don't get caught with that idea, well, I talked to the mayor and they didn't know. Don't go there.
It's I sent a financial affidavit into court to proceed, and it was refused because they said I won't do IFP, former policy, meaning that I had to fill out their paperwork stating access and income.
That's common. Now, there you go, the same thing. Study these, I guarantee that one of these is going to address that.
Islam. If I could add on, when they do that, you can send them something back saying that they're violating your freedom of expression, which is also protected by the First Amendment of the American Republic Constitution. Because they'll say, well, you got a double space and this, that, and the third. When you have the absolute freedom of expression as long as you stand behind your words.
And not just that, is that you're not held to the requirements that the Barristers Association is.
Exactly. And just to share a story, a younger brother went into a de facto tribunal about 2 days ago. And he was battling with it. Well, no, matter of fact, it was yesterday, Thursday. And he was battling with him. He told him for the record, before we get into anything, there's a few things that have to be satisfied. And the first thing is jurisdiction. And he told him, you know, I'm an American citizen as distinguished from a United States citizen. And the prosecutor was like, how old are you again? Brother's only 18. But he shut it down. But the magistrate was very, rogue. He was like, oh, well, we're going to trial. And I mean, he could have probably presented stronger. But he asked him, he said, so what, are you trying to take my constitutional rights, right now? He was like, yes, straight like that. So we know his protocols and the things to do to get back to. But I just wanted to add that on to how bold they are being now, because it's out there. It's just, so they're like, we've been telling y'all all along we the demos, the demonics, you know, and us being the Asiatics, it breaks down on the spiritual, the angels versus demons. They've been saying it the whole time, you know. So I just wanted to add that on, but that's no reason to get off of our position because they're complacent with their violation and their color of law position.
And keep in mind,
That doesn't supersede ours.
now, keep in mind what you just said, and this is why it's important for us to understand and to correct our language. Because when he said, you're trying to take my constitutional rights, the statement was flawed.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't have any constitutional rights.
Exactly.
He has rights that are secured by the treaty and constitution.
Exactly. And I pointed that out to him too.
Yeah. And those subtleties, we have to be cognizant of at all times. And this is what we talked about earlier when we say culture is in the language. And when people get this information, you're going to have to make sure they start correcting their language. Because those semantics make a big difference. Because in other words, like, argument solid, my constitutional rights, wrong statement.
Flawed, yeah. Right.
And you never, excuse me, Brother Tom, you never want to file anything formal corpus because you are a creditor that makes it all happen. You can't say I'm a creditor on one hand and I'm for a formal corpus on the other, not able to pay. So you don't want to ever file formal.
That's why I said the financial statement.
Go on to the site, and it'll say in form of corporate, but we have in parentheses financial statement.
That's what I
Because it
submitted.
actually is a financial statement.
That's what I submitted to them, and the judge sent me back saying everyone has to report their income, where they're living, and I wanted to respond back to him stating that he was violating my laws, because my laws are governed with the Peace and Friendship Treaty. However, in former properties.
Now, income, and now this comes back to them testing you. Because the judge also knows that income only applies to corporations. And it doesn't apply to capital investment. It applies only to profit made off of stock or the principal investment, and applies to corporate entities only. Therefore, you would have no income. Not only that, if you did, it's private business.
So
It ain't none of his business.
So you would write them back, they're testing you, you would write them back, basically saying do not have income, hold on, honey.
Remember, culture's in the language.
Do not have income.
Again, culture's in the
And I
language.
would address the letter back to the judge that signed.
Of course, it's a big one.
Not only that,
They put the clerk of court, but it was actually the judge that signed that.
Address it to him.
And your freedom of expression they're trying to violate too. Add that on too. Freedom of expression.
Good longer, brother.
So then how would the sister word this document that she's gonna submit back to the court?
Pretty much in the nature of the quo warranto that's on here.
Put on.
And also, you can do an independent writ, asking him, since he has a private, for-profit foreigner, absent of a warrant to do business, command from you to exercise due process secured by treaty and constitution, to reveal or to expose to him any information about your family, etc., is a violation of your right of expression, a violation of private information, and you want a written document from him with his wedding signature of what he's going to use it for. And then show in law where he has the right to demand it.
So would that be filed like the Q1 term, basically?
Same thing. You go to the writ. You know what? It's back to it's back always to the issue. If you know what their right, what their obligations are, and you know what your rights are, whenever that bridge is crossed, at any point, they're violating law. Thanks, you, brother. You know what? You know at any point that they're bridging any area, you know that it's a violation of law. They don't understand, in law, they don't make mistakes. Accept none from them. Learn what their obligations are and hold them to it at all times. And at any point where they abridge their obligations, they're committing a criminal act. Find one of these, study these, and find anywhere where they're abridging you. We'll have more next time we come, but I didn't want to keep it, any deeper than that. She has other stuff that she prepared that's expanded on this, but I figured that'll keep you busy for 2 minutes, 2 months, or whatever. All right? And so, because we're trying to orientate people into those United States code that are in place for these very such abridgments that you just mentioned, which is really why these are there, to address the very nature that you're talking about.
As soon as you file the form of office, they know that you don't understand what income really is.
Not just that you couldn't pay anyway. And that's where 192 comes in. You know what I mean? And the other issue is that you're an heir. And so being the heir, you're a creditor. And you're supposed to have free access to the court. The fact that they demanded is a violation of your free access to the court. Because you're an American citizen, distinguished from, as Mick was saying, distinguished from a U.S. citizen, which is a corpse.
How do you distinguish the thing on the IRS? Because we're saying that we're reporting these corporations.
Mike.
Because that's their boss. See, when you ask them, keep this in mind, the U.S. corporation, connotatively is a slave state. Are we clear? It is a securities and holdings corporation that deals with the applications or the registrations of instruments for trade, all types of filings, etc., which you will recognize on the corporate papers with this last filing. I think it was 1925, which we gave you all the last filings, where you look at the details of what their duties are. As a matter of fact, next time we're going to go over the corporate papers of the United States so people understand what it does and get clear in their mind that it's a mere corporation. All right? And not the country. Do you understand? When they're talking to you, they will mix these words, United States, in one sentence and say American people, and mix all these, and all of them are corruption. In other words, they will flaw in one paragraph, call it 3 different things. They'll say America, then they'll say the U.S., then they'll say the United States, then they'll say American people. You know, it's a fraud. You know, and so you must be clear on these subtleties. And even when they're presenting you their documents, trying to get you to give them, you know, extortion payments, you must recognize these things from the door by knowing what is and what is not. Understanding all misrepresentations, all understanding, and this is again, you know, like back up here, we talk right here, right? The Republic, right? We must consciously be cognizant of these things at all times. And consistently make note of these in all of our addresses with them. This is where this little section right there is to get you into the consciousness in relationship to what you just asked. We must always be working to clear the nuance between knowing the wheat from the chaff. This is separating the wheat from the chaff. You understand? So understanding that these institutions that are in operation, all of them under democracy order. Under democracy order. All right? If one doesn't know that, one has a tendency, every time you hear the word democracy, to consider it and the institutions established under it as being legitimate government. It's all imposter. You understand? This will make it better. You know, these little subtleties. I think it'd be better, you know, like, these little subtleties, I'm just putting this in because we're talking about this right now, because we want this to be very clear to everybody. And because this is more or less briefed up, we're expecting you to study and know some of this stuff, but just to clear up the purpose of this section. And so this is what everybody must keep in mind. Add this. This should help you, this should help you conceptually. All right?
Where do you find your case law? Online or?
Like, basically, yes, you can find case law online. Just type in what you want to know in case law, and it should come up. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's Cornell University, but it's not going to be a lot of. You generally, there's like either LexisNexis, or but the thing is that most of them cost money. You got to pay for them, and they're really expensive. You might get if it's like general law information. You might be able to get case law. It's just they try to hide.
You want to visit the law library.
Yeah, I was going to say they want to hide the law from you because when you start reading the law, you might. It's just the aha moment. Once you start reading it, it's just like wow.
You know, Wagner?
Wagner, yeah, that's what we got. Yeah. Yeah, no, you can go to Wagner. We go to Wagner. All the time. And you can, actually, you can get if you live in Philadelphia, you can go to UPenn and get a visitor's pass and go in the law library, but you have to basically give them your government ID or whatever like that, you get a visitor's pass. You go to the law library. They got free constitution. But I encourage everybody.
So, this will give you conceptually some things to work with. All right? These are just examples. So these are, we can take a lot of diametrically opposing principles, but this is to let you know that the operative government and the seats in government, the people who are operating government now, are a democracy order, which is an unconstitutional order of racketeers. They're impersonators. But since they claim to hold the seats, and they hold that position by international law, you can hold them to constitutional order in spite of anything.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But understand at all times that they're really impersonating. And this is the really reason why you have the problems. The greater problem that you're having, that is us plurally, is because many of us don't know the negative condition of our not being our proper person. And not so being a proper person is not just knowing who you are, it's also acting who you are. Meaning that you can't, just like you can't keep saying that the elephant is a rhinoceros. Once you say it's an elephant, he still can't act like a rhinoceros. So if he's an elephant, he must act like an elephant too. So if you're an heir, you must know that you're an heir and you must start acting like it. Meaning that you cannot be conscious that you're more and still act like a Negro. They must reflect. And this is again why Joali says, I want active Moors and not passive Moors, which means being conscious is not good enough, but don't mistake it for being cruel, but understanding to call the common law, you must relate to the traditions and customs, because that's when the nations of the world recognize you. They recognize you when you recognize yourself. They already know who you are, so they already know how you're supposed to be acting. So when we start, keep doing that Negro stuff, they already know that you're incompetent, or either you're just trying to get out of an obligation without the honor. And the issue because the issue is honor and dishonor, and you must honor your mothers and fathers, and in order to use the common law to trump the legislative law of persons who are stateless. And don't take it personal, take it as a duty and responsibility.
Islam. So, as a Moor, I've heard...
Being a Moor.
Being a Moor.
Which all of our people are.
Yes.
So you best to say being conscious and active Moor.
Being conscious and active Moor.
Then what?
I'm asking this question. As a part of our duty with the state of affairs as it is, every day we have all these quote-unquote demands for payment each month from these corporations. So it's my duty, what I'm trying to say,
Your
is one
duty-
side,
This is your
send
duty.
out my writs,
This is your
my
duty.
writ.
This is your duty.
Okay.
As it is everybody's duty. Your duty being a citizen of the land, American citizen of the land, and this is where we need to understand that these certain things that they assume are optional are not optional. It is your duty to enforce the law. It's not your option, it's your duty. And what happens is when we take the position that it is their duty to enforce it, they're assigned fiduciary to enforce. It is your duty as a citizen, means the keeper of the law. It means you're the one that's a law keeper, the knower of the law. It is your duty. This is why you hear terms like for the Europeans, when the Europeans were brought into government under the treaty, and George Washington said to that woman, says, "Madam, you now have a republic if you're willing to keep it." So you look at all these adults now, they run around talking about democracy, don't they? Now you understand why the Europeans who talk in sovereign is in trouble? They agreed to this democracy order to steal our birthright and lost theirs. You understand? Now the deal is, it is our responsibility to make our people competent when they start, now that you're aware, and so you don't have the option of claiming executorship to the estate when you're not competent. Because you still have the issue of proper estate transfer or transfer of inheritance. Now the European has been operating under color, but in many areas it's by default because we keep on dragging our feet, taking this information serious. You understand what I'm saying? We won't study this like if our people were going for a JOB, they'd pass most of these tests. Because they dedicate themselves to the study. They go pay 1,000 notes for books and everything, get it over with, and be on time, go 2 semesters, and pass for a JOB. And this is their birthright. All of their estate, and you know what's hard to get them to do? They're lawful, start studying seriously, participate in all the activities, work out the problems that they see, start cleaning up the temples, take responsibility, and they'll get around to it eventually. Then they're always getting hit with the Negro Acts, and then he wants somebody to take 2 hours and conference with him on the phone. And they don't, and it's not in them yet. You have to become a part. It's like this. People, and it takes time because of our mistraining, to recognize that freedom is a duty and responsibility. It's not a package that drops in your lap. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And unfortunately, it kind of takes this European to put his foot halfway up our butt to get us inspired. You know, in our opinion. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's true. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of like where we are. You know. But we'll get it together. So trusting that this should be helpful. You know, so look at the dichotomy here. You know, and recognize the diametric opposition, and understand that the law is to your right, to your left first, and the unlawful is the democracy. You know, and look at them just like that, and then you can also add for a column for yourself. Look at synonyms and opposites to positive, and you can increase that list because it's necessary to have that in your mind, because a lot of questions that will evolve in our dispensations with them when they start sending these. Now, where they say this is, they'll send you a lot of instruments or claims, and they say this is a bill, this is an advice. This is not a bill, this is advice, or this is,
Advice on.
yeah. Because it is a bill, because it's a statement on the account. It's already been discharged. When they send it, it's not, you don't even get bills, you get statements of account, and they're calling them bills.
Right.
Are we?
That's because you don't know.
No, it isn't, now, there you go. Nationality is part of that responsibility. It's not just the correcting of the name. It's civic and social duties. You understand? Now, another thing that must be comprehended is that when, like say in any political jurisdiction, like say if you or someone else enters into any political jurisdiction on the planet today, you will be required to study and pass extensive tests and questionnaires relative to international law and constitutional law. It would not be the option of we having these discussions and asking questions and everybody, two people raise their hand, yeah, you know, and then start giving guess answers. In reality, you must know the answer. Those things have not been enforced on our people, and so they're not aware that they're responsible to it. However, we must start enforcing the law in order to save the nation. But also understand that those principles are dubiously embodied in the operation of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That they have not been carried out, totally another issue. However, you need to be made aware of that. And of course, while we may be in these venues doing these things and taking care of a lot of the nation's business, you must understand it's also the duty and responsibility of the people at large to clean up them temples. Not only the temple structure is right, but the administrators have been corrupted. And that's not a blanket statement, you know, but it is generalized enough that the injury is very clear. Meaning that much of what you're getting here, you should be getting in the schools, which are a required part by charter of every temple. And they are indeed regencies. And including the issue, like say when they come at you dealing with your house, everything like that, grand government's will be dealing with this, not you. Now, the other thing that we're going to be talking about in the future, trusting that we can get there without too much hassle, to get these people competent enough and to hold some courts and have the people actually participate with issues and register them within our jurisdiction in order to save a lot of people from, like say for instance, we'll hold court and deal with your issue and make the claim and the order in your favor and then send it to the state.
Yeah, let's do that.
No, of course you're willing because you're under the gun. But the issue is preferably that you would be sitting in the jury or on a council of Majlis dealing with someone else and thus qualify yourself. Do for others what you would have done for you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm talking to you law, and I'm talking what's all available to our people right now. It's just that they won't take this information serious enough to really dedicate themselves to the study. Therefore, we're still collectively as a whole, except for a handful of individuals, we're in dishonor. And don't know that we're in dishonor. We're trying to clean it up, but we're actually in dishonor.
Well, Brother Taj, you know that we're still in the matrix. So our time, even people who are interested in this knowledge and, you know, as soon as I get back, what happened? You know, what did he talk about? And let me see your notes and different things like that. But they're obligated
They're obligated to this just like you. Now look at this. Now, understand that matrix means womb. It does. Now, this is the republic is the true mother matrix. The democracy is the parentis, the false parentis. This is where they call the parentis issue. So, the unplugging you from the matrix as a general statement would be, as you see here. See like this? Look at the arrow, right? See? Unplugging you from this and taking you back to this.
Yes.
Unplugging you from this and taking you back to this. Unplugging you from this, taking you back to this. Now you see what drawing when he says, help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of God. He's saying unplugging from the matrix. From the false. See, but if he says it like that, you won't get it. You know, because it's too metaphysical. No, I'm just saying, if you studied, you would, but like, if you present it like that in its metaphysical form, the average persons, they would reject it. Just like if you said to them, you know, we're giving you the hidden lessons of Yeshua. You know, I ain't listening to that. I just know Jesus. You know, right? But they don't know Jesus' password. But you can't tell them that from the beginning, because they will reject the knowledge. They don't know that Jesus was made up by the popes of Rome. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They think it was real. Yeah. There was no J in language until the 1500s. Do you understand what I'm saying? But the masses, by them being under the spell, they will defend Constantine, thinking they're worshiping Jesus. Do you understand? All right.
And the bills.
So the same thing. So when you look at this, when you look at the feudal law, consider this, Constantine. When you look at the allodial law, consider that Yeshua. This is why even when it's presented to you in the questionnaire, it says, what does Jesus mean? Jesus means justice. You see? Knowing that in time you recognize they're not talking about the person, they're talking about the principle. And then when you go to your adolescence, you find it's Yeshua. You know what I mean? And that there is no J in Hebrew. And his name was Yeshua ben Yosef. Do you understand? But only the priesthood knows that, but not the masses. That's why you're given the degrees to save you from Rome. But it's up to you to save yourself. Islam.
When you become nationalized, do that paper actually get filed somewhere?
Now, this is what it is. The paperwork is more or less filed by you because it's filed in society. Society is the court. See, this is what people need to understand. They're looking for a legitimacy of government that doesn't exist. Because they don't yet know that they're the government. And they don't recognize yet their government in name and principle. Therefore, they're under the illusionary state that is some building somewhere. You understand? They think that the United States is the nation. They don't know the nation is Morocco. They don't understand the aggregate and the abstract. They don't understand the conjoinedness of the trying up and the trying down. As a matter of fact, they think that's double worship because the Europeans told them that.
That's right.
And that is both the spirit and the flesh, strangely mixed or balanced, which is the insignia of the Moorish nation. Therefore, it is within. And therefore, you must confess your own. Before in, before out.
I mean, within the temple, do they keep that paper? Like, does it
Oh,
get filed?
well, yes, but this is the deal. Rome, once you understand, like for instance, when you're looking at, say the treaty book, when you look at it together, and you understand George Washington at the time when he was speaking, his subordinate position and the recognition. So let me read this so it makes sense to you. Let me make sense to you. And keep this in mind, you all. This is why once in a while we will read the treaty book to you, because unless, it's sort of like you got to be redundant with some things because we just don't hold concepts. And then, keep this in mind, brothers, too, so that your concepts will be correct. Now, and with yourself too, Sister Sandra. So this is why things have to be put in perspective, and you have to be cognizant of both acts. History and law goes together. This is another thing that must be kept in mind. History and law goes together. They're not separate disciplines. They have been separated with us in order to maintain this misinformation. So I will read, and also to look at, so history and law and timelines. All right? So keep in mind that George Washington was assigned to the palace in in day 30 of April, 1789, right? So I'm going to read a letter from George Washington to the Sultan of Morocco, His Majesty, and that's dated day 1 of December, 1789, the same months. So count the months. From April to December, the construction of this letter, and it is transferred in the city of New York. All right? Now listen to it so that this will clear up a lot of concepts. And so keep in mind we're talking about different things concerning our estate, etc. You must be aware of your estate. When they recognize that you're not aware of your estate, they're not going to help you along because they want you not to be aware of your estate. Are we clear? All right, so listen to the letter and pay attention to the paragraphs. Letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, city of New York, 1789. Great and magnanimous friend, since the date of the letter which the late Congress, by their president, addressed your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. So you can see by the first paragraph that he wasn't the first president, yet you also know that he's taught as being the first president to the masses. So immediately in the first paragraph you can see that there's a distortion of history that's not accidental. Are we clear? Number 2, you can see already he's addressing the Sultan of Morocco, not the Queen of England.
That's right.
All right. Now, second paragraph. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the disarrangements occasioned by so great, though peaceable, a revolution will apologize and account for your Majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States, which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them afforded reason to expect. Now, if you pay attention to that, they couldn't keep up with the taxes. And there was resistance with some of the regencies, you see. Yes, the tributes were taxes. Now, third paragraph. The United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, so you see he was appointed, he was not elected. You understand? Your Majesty's letter of August the 17th, 1788, this is 2 years earlier, during the Arthur St. Clair administration, that these tardy activities have been going on. And he's apologizing. You see? So the United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, your Majesty's letter of August the 17th, 1788, which by reason of dissolution of the late government only exists, you see, remained unanswered and has been delivered to me. And I have also received the letters which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them. Fourth paragraph. We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed on terms of our power to comply with. We still could keep them taxes. And there were regencies that did not want them established. Keep in mind, these different regencies later became what you call states. They were your estates, which George Washington converted to states. Removed the E. Now, within our territories, there are no mines with gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and dissolution of a long war, have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. But our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. Paragraph 5. Pay attention to this. The encouragement, pay close attention to this one. The encouragement with which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions. See where you're standing? You're standing on Moorish dominions. The encouragement with which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused a treaty with us to be observed, so you must be aware of the treaty, because this supersedes the Constitution. You see? So what happens if you don't know yourself and you have no attachment to this? Can you pull them to the law? Isn't that common sense? But if you don't know that, it never crossed your mind, does it? So can you be anything but a creditor? All right. How can you be in debt to a colonist who's standing on your land? They owe you. Now you understand why they all must be Masons? All right. All right. Now, the punctuality with which you have caused a treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. The United States is part of the Moorish Empire. See that? It's an appendage. They just overthrew you. See the danger of not knowing history? And we keep dismissing this stuff like it belongs to them. See what our problem, which makes us incompetent. Now you understand in the divine constitutional bylaw when Raleigh says, being part and parcel, you know, being Moorish Americans, you're part and parcel of this said government and must live the life accordingly. So if you don't recognize that you're part of this government, you keep dismissing it, which makes you incompetent. And by default, you give them mandate. You see? Last paragraph. Well, next paragraph. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your Imperial Majesty. And may the Almighty bless your Imperial Majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection, signed George Washington. So, the majority of our people don't even know they're standing on their own land. They think that the U.S. corporation is the nation. They think the Stars and Stripes, which is a trading banner, think that's the national flag. See the difficulty that we have. Now, logically, you would not find that letter in ordinary school books because it would spoil everything, if you were trying to understand. However, being Moorish American, you are exposed to this information to free you from the mental servitude which you have now. That's why Raleigh says, well, I came to redeem you from the mental slavery which you have now. You understand? And then you already know that's a connotative, but you have to study for it to make sense to you. Because mentally, the people aren't tied to the land, they're disassociated. So from an estate perspective, they have no right of claim. Not because it's not theirs, it's because they don't recognize the honor of their mothers and their fathers. And without the honors of their mothers and fathers, they can't pull the common law in, because they must be tied to the ancient traditions and customs in order to claim the honor. thus the law. You see how, it is not complex, but if people don't have a background, it appears complex. It really isn't. They're just absent of knowledge. And so they're destroyed for lack of knowledge. And if you can get the people past their emotionalism and their personality attachments and just get them to start dealing with the facts, they would see themselves. But they've got to learn to love instead of hate, and they've got to turn their hearts back to their mothers and fathers, lest their earth, their estate be cursed, smacked with a curse, which is what's really happening. That's why they say black is a curse. Because it is. It's a misclassification, thus a curse. It itself is not the curse. The misclassification factor upon its application and misapplication creates the curse. All right? So we're going to have to close up. And I want to thank Dr. Nyla again for her work. Can you come give us a little bit, Dr. Nyla, before I'm not picking on you. I know you're tired.
What you want me to give you a little bit of?
Just get come on.
What you want me to read something out of the book? I have my glasses.
So you're not leave your seat?
You want me to read something?
Oh, come on. Don't even act like you don't know what I'm talking
I can't
about.
see this.
These are 125s. You do 125.
Only thing I can recite, no, I use 250. I can recite
Can
the
you do
hair.
125?
Look, I can do the hair thing. Anything. Better than what I was looking at. I just wanted to try.
That work?
I guess it was.
Getting away, getting away.
I'm trying to get out of it. Oh, that's the one I did the last time. I'll do the one that did I mention? Most everybody heard it. It says, did I mention my ascension takes me out of your detention, or that my inner inhibition has given way to precognition, or that I've opened up my eyes so that I see behind your lies, and it's not hard to recognize that you're the devil in disguise. You work hard for centuries enslaving minds of folks like me, and it's your fear of this exposure that keeps you from delaying full disclosure. How do you sleep at night, knowing your deeds have never been right? And regardless of your 1,000-year plan, soon you won't have a leg on which to stand. All around you, the indigenous are waking, and our birthright back we're taking. So don't you really should be shaking. Can't you feel your matrix breaking? Excuse me, but did I mention that this is not about dissension? Please don't try to make this something that it's not. The time for righting what's been wrong, it's getting closer, won't be long before my inheritance you stole. Karma will make you restore. And oh yes, did I mention I am more. I didn't even see that. Remember the time when the only thing on our minds was how long or straight our hair was? So much so we'd do anything to get more, even buying fake hair from the corner Asian store. We couldn't see our true beauty, no one really did, so we valued each other by the hair on our head. But not just our hair, but our skin and features too, because a standard was set that we tried to live up to. Male and female, we bought the lie, put it in our heads, not realizing years later, many would be dead from the very thing we thought would make us so much more. We became victims of a chemically waged biological war. We didn't know our true worth, so some thought they could score, and manufacturers began reeling us in more and more with, your hair needs more shine, and your hair needs more swing, and we got just the product that can do the darn thing. But now, we realize that we are of royal stock, and true beauty suits us to a T. And the lips, tits, butts, and tans that some have to buy are things that we get for free. So we're through with relaxers and products that burn. We're proudly wearing our hair natural because finally it's our turn to rock our locks, twist outs, and froze, and yes, even our washing those. Does anyone else see the transition? Can you feel it in the air? After all those years of chemical bondage, there's been a revolution from hair cares. Okay, that's what it is. I know that without reading the book.
I saw that. That just came.
I gotta do a couple of them, but then one he. Yeah.
She's truly a poet. Awesome.
And my book is available.
Musings of an undercover poet.
Oh yeah, she does have the foreword was written by our very own brother Tarik, who himself is a poet, if you didn't know it. And so he wrote the foreword to my book.
Poetry is?
Poetry is the musings of an undercover writer. It's very eclectic. It goes from inspiration to love to quits to whatever, life. That's a lot.
Yeah, just like the book of Pocahontas he wrote, see how it sounds when you read it. It's like a journey. It takes you on that journey. Pocahontas.
Who wrote that? Oh.
The story of Pocahontas.
Oh, I haven't read that. Yeah.
It's like a journey. It takes you on a journey of like a rocket journey. It's nice. It's really
Yeah, I have a poem in there that I wrote for my granddaughter called The Inner Healer, and my granddaughter was kind of going through and putting on business on the Facebook, and I got tired of her putting her stuff on Facebook, and I saw her kind of suffering. She lost her job, and losing her job, she thought that it was the end of the world. But if you live along a while, you lose a lot of jobs. But she was putting her business out there in the street, and nobody was really trying to help her. They were just laughing at her. And so I wrote this poem called The Inner Healer that says, when you're in the throes of deep emotion, it feels just like you're in the middle of the ocean with waves of highs and lows crashing all around. And most times it's hard to see the shoreline when you think you're losing your mind and there's no one from where you stand who can help you back to dry land. So do you wallow in this mess or realize that every trial is just a test, the answers to which you have written inside, like you're the captain of your life is in your control, and you're the captain of your soul who has the power to set sail upon a course that cannot fail. The time for nursing on wounds is over. Realize you are that four-leaf clover and stop overlooking the healer inside of you. Physician, you must heal yourself. It's up to you and no one else to let your mind, body, and soul become aligned. And once the fog clears from your mind and you're no longer spiritually blind, you'll see with your third eye that God's not somewhere in the sky. And who you really need to find lives within your heart and mind. Wake up, my child, and see the light. You've been through the darkest night. The fight is over. The score says you win. It's time to recognize the healer within. It's in the book. The book is $10. The book is $10, and it's all full of stuff.
Is everybody aware that the boards are meeting at the mall Sunday in Washington, D.C.? How many people know about that? And how many people are going? So we can pay, I can pay to help somebody pay stuff. This is his historical event. There's going to be a lot of boards down there. I don't remember the topic, but it's going to be great. It's going to be a great day. A great meeting is on. Islam.